Chapter 2572. If I want to control my own destiny, I can only rely on my own strength. With my current strength, in this universe, other than the original body of the evil god that descended to the world, it is already difficult for anyone to be a match for me. Even the supreme expert of the monarch clan, Di Hao, is no longer a supreme existence before me. However, compared to Feng Han, who came from beyond the heavens, I am still far behind. I am like an ant, and that evil god might be even more powerful than Feng Han. The descent of the evil god, Feng Han. Right now, I am as insignificant as an ant in front of all of you. However, there will be a day when I will step on all of your heads, just like how I stepped on the heads of those who once humiliated me. I will step on all of your heads and climb over all of the peaks. Su Fang clenched his fists, and his eyes flashed with determination. First, I will find a way to integrate the world fragment and quickly increase my strength. Then, I will go to the Dark Caste Palace to suppress the Golden Crow and obtain the true Yang Evil Vanquishing Sword. After that, I will enter the Celestial Worthy Mountain and find out the reason for the change in heaven and earth. After solving the problem of the change in heaven and earth, I will find out what difficulties the Heavenly Lady has and why she left me so resolutely. Then, I will go beyond the heavens and save my grandfather's soul. After pondering for a while, Su Fang sorted out his thoughts. Then, he stretched out his hand and a cauldron lid-like treasure appeared in his palm. It was the treasure that could seal the world fragment. Ancestral Gragon, who was in Su Fang's inner world, saw this scene and said in a shocked voice, "Su Fang boy, how did you get the cauldron lid that can take away the world fragment?" "I just casually picked it up." Casually picked it up, Ancestral Gragon was annoyed. In the first level of the God of Advent Palace, Su Fang casually picked up the Beast Tamer token and made the old dragon, who had just escaped, his slave. Now, he casually picked up the cauldron lid that could take away the world fragment. Why did he have all the good luck? Su Fang activated the cauldron lid. Buzz. The cauldron lid rapidly enlarged and flew onto the world fragment. It tightly covered the mouth of the cauldron and made the lid and the body of the cauldron become one. Su Fang reached out his hand and grabbed. The world fragment moved with a loud rumble and was absorbed into his inner world. It was not an easy task to fuse with a world fragment that came from beyond the heavens. The only way was to spend a lot of time slowly refining it. However, it wasn't completely useless now. Before completely refining the world fragment, Su Fang could use the lotus gems that were constantly being nurtured by the world fragment to absorb the pure origin force of the outer profound world to cultivate. Every few hundred years, lotus gemstones would be produced from the world fragment. Su Fang estimated that he would only need 2 or 3 gemstones to help him achieve peak middle-rank Lord level and elevate to upper-rank Lord level. This was the power of the advanced extraterrestrial energy Su Fang was cultivating now. Except for the chaotic qi and the essence of the world in the heavenly star plate, the other energies in the universe could not help him much. However, the advanced extraterrestrial energy aura only required 2 or 3 gemstones that contained the origin force of the outer profound world to elevate him to the next level. During this trip to the Advent God's Palace, he had subdued the ancestral dragon, elevated to middle-rank Lord level, rescued his senior sister Shu Wanjin, unified the Chaos Holy Mirror, obtained the heavenly star plate, the world fragment from beyond the heavens, and even killed the clone that had descended. It was a great harvest. Su Fang's personal ability and overall ability had improved tremendously. However, Goddess Luo's incident diluted the joy in Su Fang's heart. He recalled everything that had happened between him and Goddess Luo in his mind. Suddenly, Su Fang recalled something and asked the ancestral dragon, "Old dragon, do you know about the pregnant heavenly Dao core?" "The pregnant heavenly Dao core? You know about such a treasure too?" "The pregnant heavenly Dao core isn't simple. It's said that the peerless powerhouses of the Jiuquan God territory nurtured a Tao seed with their own universe. It's a supreme treasure that's specially used to nurture successors. It's said that cultivators who cultivate the pregnant heavenly Tao core have limitless achievements in the future. They can even cultivate a universe of their own and reach the level of a supreme heavenly venerable. In that case, the pregnant heavenly Tao core should be extremely valuable. It's not just valuable. The pregnant heavenly Tao core is a heavenly venerable powerhouse who didn't hesitate to nurture a universe seed with their own universe's origin energy. Even the peerless geniuses of the mystic world in beyond the heavens scramble for such a treasure. Can you imagine how valuable it is? There was a moment of silence. Su Fang continued asking, "Old dragon, you were by the heavenly venerable's side. You should know about the son of the heavenly venerable, who used to be the Netherlord, right?" The ancestral dragon replied, "I know some things about him, but not much. I only know that he's arrogant and unruly. He even dared to defy a supreme heavenly venerable. Later on, he transcended this universe and went beyond the heavens." Su Fang's heart was filled with doubts. Back in the divine dungeon of law, Su Fang had rescued Mystery, who was shackled in the depths of the prison suppression codex. Mystery had condensed an energy seed with her own power and given it to Shu Wanjin. Meanwhile, he had given Goddess Luo the pregnant heavenly Tao core. QL11 Shu Wanjin cultivated the 9E9 transformations and merged with the Yuanyin mirror. She could be considered to have received Mystery's inheritance indirectly. It was understandable that Mystery did not hesitate to consume her own origin energy to give her the energy seed. What puzzled Su Fang was why Mystery would be so generous and give such a precious treasure like the pregnant heavenly Tao core to Goddess Luo without even frowning. There must be something fishy about it. Why did Goddess Luo come to this universe from beyond the heavens? What was the mission she was talking about? Also, Ancestor Luo not only knew the Feng clan's powerhouse Feng Han, but he also knew Dong Xianjing. However, he did not belong to any force. What was his background? Why did he cut off the fate and karma between Su Fang and Goddess Luo? There must be a big secret hidden in Goddess Luo. The mission she shouldered forced her to leave me. Sooner or later, I'll find out the truth. No one can control the fate of Su Fang's cultivation companion. A fierce aura surged in Su Fang's heart. Temporarily suppressing the matter of Goddess Luo in his heart, Su Fang left the deepest part of the Advent Palace. It was time to go to the Dark Casting Palace to suppress the Golden Crow and obtain the True Yang Evil Vanquishing Sword and the Treasure Refining Pool. As Su Fang and Shu Wanjin had activated the Origin Sacred Mirror and fought with the avatars, the depths of the Advent Divine Palace had turned into a wasteland. The remaining powerful enchantments and restrictions were all gone. The Advent Divine Palace had turned into a desolate space. Su Fang no longer had any scruples. He used his ability to transcend the heavens and earth to break free from the shackles and restrictions of the Advent Palace. Soon, he arrived at the second level of the Advent Palace. When he arrived at the Dark Casting Palace, Su Fang was completely dumbfounded. The Dark Casting Palace was originally located in the depths of a huge mountain. After a huge battle, the huge mountain collapsed and there were floating rocks and fiery red lava everywhere. However, the Dark Casting Palace had disappeared. The Treasure Refining Pool and the Golden Crow had also disappeared without a trace. Su Fang was shocked and stunned. Disappeared? That Golden Crow actually disappeared without a trace? Isn't it unable to leave the Advent Palace? Ancestral Gragon saw the scene outside through Su Fang's divine body and wasn't surprised. That feathered beast actually escaped? That Golden Crow is a peerless powerhouse comparable to a transcendent powerhouse. Furthermore, it controlled the Treasure Refining Pool and the True Yang Evil Vanquishing Sword. How could it escape without a word? You even killed the incarnation. That Golden Crow is as cunning and cowardly as a mouse. If it didn't escape, Would it be waiting for you to suppress it? Even I didn't expect that golden crow to have such an ability to escape with the treasure refining pool. Su Fong was depressed. Such a powerhouse is actually so cowardly. It's really shameful. How could a golden crow run away just like that? Isn't it lacking the demeanor of a powerhouse? Humph, that feathered beast brought the treasure refining pool with it. It's impossible for it to leave this universe. Where else can it escape to? When I regain my peak strength, I'll find it even if it's in the depths of the heavens or the 9 underworlds. As for the true Yang evil vanquishing sword, I'm determined to obtain it. With the help of the Origin Sacred Mirror, I can sense every corner of this universe. Golden Crow can't escape. Su Fong snorted coldly and didn't stay any longer. He quickly left the Advent Palace. Returning to nature, Su Fong released Shu Wanjin from the heavenly divination astrolabe and combined with the Origin Sacred Mirror. With the help of the Origin Sacred Mirror, Su Fong's sensing power instantly extended to the universe. At the same time, he coordinated with the life-shrinking technique to sense the Golden Crow's destiny. In a flash, Su Fong's sensing power swept across the small world, the great world, and the myriad world. A feeling of controlling the universe suddenly arose spontaneously. Su Fong saw the small world that was completely occupied by the resurrected cultivators, the big goblin, and the demon race. Calamities erupted again and again. The small world was the first to be unable to withstand the baptism of the calamities. At this time, it was completely destroyed and turned into a world of resurrected powerhouses. He also saw the Great World. The Great World situation was slightly better than the small world, but it wasn't much better. Only the Great World, where the Heaven Crossing sect was located and the few immortal realms around it still had immortals alive. The other immortal realms had all turned into dead wastelands. The Great World would follow in the small world's footsteps sooner or later. Su Fong's sensing power swept across the myriad worlds and caught a glimpse of the scene that surprised and shocked him. The canopy of heaven that had separated the myriad worlds into two was now gone. However, once the sky curtain vanished, not only did the Tao Defiance Alliance not spread towards the god realms controlled by human cultivators, the Tao Defiance, devils, and evil forces from the dark world had all vanished from most of the god realms that the Tao Defiance had once controlled. Only a few god realms remained where the Tao Defiance Alliance was active. Su Fong then sensed that the aura of death and violence that filled the world had become much fainter. He immediately understood the reason. Su Fong had killed the ancestral fiend's clone in the Advent Divine Palace, and even the power of the 7 blood sons had been weakened. The Tao Defiance Alliance had suffered a heavy blow, so it made sense that they'd begun to shrink their forces. It was a pleasant surprise that the battle in the Advent Divine Palace would affect the situation of the myriad worlds. He continued to sense for the Golden Crow's presence. After a few probing attempts, Su Fong didn't find the Golden Crow's aura of destiny, which didn't surprise him. Has the Golden Crow escaped from this part of the universe? Su Fong frowned. It's unlikely that the Golden Crow has escaped to outer space. The only possibility is... Chapter 2573. With the help of the Origin Sacred Mirror, Su Fong's senses reached the highest point in the sky, and he looked at the divine sun that nourished all things. Boom! Su Fong's eyes reflected a blazing fireball. The flames boiled and burned inside, and they radiated a terrifying might that could incinerate heaven and earth. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The faintly discernible aura in the divine sun caused the Tao of Fate from the life-shrinking technique to flicker rapidly in Su Fong's mind. In the end, it transformed into a burning golden crow. What a cunning golden crow! It actually hid inside the divine sun. No wonder I couldn't find you in all the worlds. He finally found the golden crow's whereabouts. However, Su Fong's eyes were burned by the light of the divine sun. His eyes had turned crimson red, and they had almost been destroyed. How terrifying was the divine sun! If it weren't for the fact that he cultivated the 9 transformations and had the primordial yang mirror of the primordial yang mirror and directly tried to sense the divine sun, even a supreme existence like Di Hao of the monarch clan would have his eyes incinerated. Xu Wanjin hurriedly used the power of 9 and the cold aura quickly merged with the divine sun energy that had seeped into Su Fang's eyes. Su Fang's burning eyes felt a wave of coldness, and then they gradually returned to normal. What a terrifying divine sun! With my current strength, even sensing the divine sun would cause me to be injured, let alone entering the divine sun to suppress the golden crow. This is troublesome. The golden crow is like a dragon returning to the sea, and the divine sun coupled with the treasure refining pool and the true yang evil vanquisher sword. How could it be so easy to suppress it? Su Fang's brows furrowed. He had no choice. He could only wait until he was strong enough to enter the divine sun, capture the golden crow, and take the true yang evil vanquisher sword. He clearly didn't have that strength now. Even if the ancestral Gragon recovered to his peak state, he was definitely not a match for the golden crow in the divine sun. That was the golden crow's territory. I'll let you live for a few more years. It won't be long before I kill my way into the divine sun and suppress you. Su Fang could only resentfully give up. What else could he do? I wonder where the leader of the Tao Defiance is hiding right now. I should simply find him and kill him to put an end to all future troubles. Due to the departure of Goddess Luo, Su Fang was already filled with anger. Now that the golden crow had escaped, it was unknown when he would be able to obtain the true yang evil vanquishing sword. This made Su Fang even angrier. Su Fang was filled with rage and had nowhere to vent it, so he actually intended to vent it on the leader of the Tao Defiant. This was also why Su Fang's strength had skyrocketed during this trip to the Advent Divine Palace, and his confidence had skyrocketed as well. He didn't even take the number 1 expert of the Tao Defiance Alliance seriously. With the help of the Chaos Origin Sacred Mirror, Shao Chen sensed the situation again. In a god realm, Su Fang sensed a few familiar auras, which shocked and astonished him. The divine world was not too far away from the Advent Celestial Palace. It was the ruins of a divine world. A very long time ago, a peak over God had perished, and the world within his body had been left behind in the void of the myriad of worlds to form this divine world. The space-time within the divine world was completely desolate, and not much natural energy could be sensed. It was practically a wasteland, but there were very few cultivators living there. It was exactly in this wasteland that Su Fang sensed 3 extremely familiar auras. Bai Ling, Qing Yu, and Luo. He hadn't expected that the 3 of them would actually leave the Yuan Tiangong and come to the wasteland of the divine world. However, the thing that surprised Su Fang the most wasn't the 3 of them, and it was another aura. It didn't come from a cultivator or the big goblin, and it came from a divine artifact. The Ian Chariot. Su Fang had encountered a great explosion of energy from a world fragment on the 2nd level of the Advent Divine Palace, and he had no choice but to activate the Ian Chariot to deal with the high-level energy. As a result, the Ian Chariot had been blasted flying. Su Fang thought that it had been destroyed by the blast or swept to a corner of the myriad of worlds, and it would be impossible to find it again. For this reason, Su Fang's heart ached for it. The Ian Chariot was the most powerful time treasure in this part of the universe, and it was also a divine artifact of creation. It was extremely important to Su Fang. Unexpectedly, he actually found the Ian Chariot in the wasteland of the divine world. I didn't expect that I would actually find the Ian Chariot. My treasure is still mine. Let's go and get the Ian Chariot back, and meet Sister Bai and the others. Su Fang's originally gloomy mood suddenly became cheerful. Of course, it wasn't because he had found the Ian Chariot, but because he was about to meet Bai Ling, Qing Yu, and Luo. Purple Hong Divine World. It got its name because of the peerless sovereign god, Master Zi Hong. Later on, when Master Zi Hong died, The spiritual energy in the Purple Hong divine world declined day by day, and it quickly fell, and finally became a wasteland. The once powerful and prosperous Purple Hong divine world was left with only the descendants of Master Zi Hong. They built the Purple Hong divine sect on the last remaining spiritual vein, and struggled at death's door until now. There were less than 1,000 people left. More than 2,000 years ago, the Purple Hong divine sect suddenly had a windfall. A peerless treasure fell from the sky and landed in the Purple Hong divine sect. The Purple Hong divine sect was naturally surprised and happy, thinking that it was time for the Purple Hong divine sect to rise again. Who knew, once the news leaked out, the windfall immediately turned into a calamity. That treasure that had fallen from the sky had attracted countless experts. At this time, no less than 10,000 experts had gathered outside the mountain range where the Purple Hong divine sect was located. Some of them were peerless experts that could destroy the Purple Hong divine sect with a single attack. Fortunately, these experts came from different forces, and they were wary of each other. None of them took the initiative to attack the Purple Hong divine sect. Therefore, the Purple Hong divine sect was not destroyed yet, but it was not far from that time. Experts from different forces were eyeing the Purple Hong divine sect's treasure covetously, but none of them were willing to take the lead and become the target of public criticism. It was a stalemate. Suddenly, the Purple Hong divine sect's protective formation parted like waves, and a peak ninth heavenly god old man flew out from the passage. The old man repeatedly bowed to the experts around him in a servile manner as he proclaimed loudly, "Everyone, I am the sect chief of the Violet Chaos Divine Sect. A rare treasure fell from the heavens to my Violet Chaos Divine Sect, but how could my Violet Chaos Divine Sect dare to possess such a rare treasure? I am willing to offer you the treasure, but I beg you to leave the Purple Hong divine world as soon as possible." Swish, swish, swish. Everyone's attention was focused on the old man. Although the old man was the sect master of the Purple Hong divine sect, he was only a heavenly god. Under the gazes of so many experts, his divine orifices trembled, and his primordial spirit nearly shattered. His body trembled, and it was difficult for him to fly. "Here you go." With all his strength, the old man waved his hand, and a Xian Guang appeared and flew out of the Purple Hong divine world. It was a four-wheeled chariot, and it exuded an ancient and profound aura of the grand Tao of time. It was none other than the Infinity Chariot. Fortune Divine Artifact. That's a Fortune Divine Artifact. Many experts from different starfields were knowledgeable, and they couldn't help but exclaim when they sensed the Infinity Chariot's aura. Fortune Divine Artifact. The crowd of over 10,000 people fell into a dead silence. Everyone's eyes were fixed on the Infinity Chariot, and a strange light flashed in their eyes. A peak supreme grade divine artifact was enough to drive these cultivators crazy, and they were willing to risk their lives for it. As for a Fortune divine artifact, it was something that only existed in legends. How could these people not be shocked when they saw it right in front of their eyes? "That Fortune divine artifact is mine!" A higher god roared as if he had gone mad, and he pounced on the Infinity Chariot. "Whoever dares to compete with me, I swear to annihilate their entire family." A Tao Integration Realm Divine Sovereign unleashed the power of the Heavenly Tao, and his divine aura enveloped the Infinity Chariot, and he pulled it toward him. Boom, boom, boom. All the cultivators were enraged, and they launched a fierce attack on the Tao Integration Realm Cultivator. Although the Tao Integration Realm Cultivator was powerful, his defenses were shattered under the attacks of the crowd, and he was soon reduced to ashes. A chaotic battle broke out outside the Purple Hong divine sect, and the sky darkened. In just the time it took for an incense stick to burn, hundreds of cultivators were killed, and even the Purple Hong divine sect was affected. The old man was killed, and the sect's barrier was broken. Most of the cultivators in the sect were also killed. I didn't expect it to be a Fortune divine artifact. My luck is truly heaven-defying. A burly man with a black face broke through the void, and his domineering aura swept out like a ferocious beast from ancient times. His aura swept out, and many cultivators were sent flying. The burly man with a black face was an upper lord-level sovereign. The burly man with a black face grabbed the infinity chariot, and a purple light flashed in his eyes. He glanced at the cultivators and said in a domineering voice, "I'm the Dark Owl Exalted, and I'm taking this treasure. Do you have any objections?" Under the burly man's divine aura, the cultivators trembled in fear. Who would dare to have any objections? Swoosh, 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 swoosh. Another dozen or so experts broke through the void, and they were all lord-level peerless expert. Seeing the Dark Owl Exalted, the dozen or so lord-level experts revealed a look of fear. It turned out that the Dark Owl Exalted was a peerless bandit. Although he wasn't as famous as the Golden Rainbow King, his strength and ruthlessness far surpassed the Golden Rainbow King's. Since no one has any objections, this treasure will belong to me. The Dark Owl Exalted chuckled, and was about to absorb the infinity chariot into his body. Suddenly a cold voice came from the void. "You can't take this treasure." Then 3 figures shuttled through the void. One of them was a young girl in white, and the other was a middle-aged man in a green robe. Both of them emitted a demonic aura. They were big goblin. The last one was a man in a red robe. He looked as if he was made of blood, and his body emitted a sharp murderous aura. He was an Azura expert. A murderous light flashed in the Dark Owl Exalted's eyes. He glanced at the 3 figures and said in a chilly voice, "Do you have any objections?" The young girl in white said with a chuckle, "If you really want to take this treasure, it's up to you. But I'm afraid you don't have the guts to take it." The Dark Owl Exalted smiled domineeringly. "In this universe, is there any treasure that I don't dare to take? I can come and go as I please even in those powerful godly clans. In this universe, except for the Supreme Emperors, who can do anything to me?" The middle-aged man in a green robe said indifferently, "This treasure is called the Infinity Chariot. It's the supreme treasure of the Su Fong. How dare you take it?" The treasure of the Su Fong? Chapter 2574. Su Fong's Dharma treasure? The cultivators exclaimed in astonishment. Then, a series of gasps could be heard. Everyone's eyes were filled with fear and reverence. The Black Owl High Holiness sensed the Infinity Chariot carefully and sensed the horrifying power of time contained in the Infinity Chariot. Then, he recalled the rumors about Su Fong and no longer had any doubts in his heart. Since it's Su Fong's Saint Son's Dharma treasure, how could I dare to take it? You 3 must be the masters under Su Fong's Saint Son. Then, I'll give this supreme Dharma treasure to you 3. I'm as blind as a bat. I hope you won't take offense. The Black Owl High Holiness, a notorious bandit in the infinite worlds, cupped his fists and bowed to Bai Ling, Qing Yu, and Luo with a smile on his face. Then, he unleashed a surge of godly might and sent the Infinity Chariot flying toward Bai Ling. After bowing to the 3 again, the Black Owl High Holiness turned around and fled into the void, disappearing without a trace. "You said it's Su Fong's Dharma treasure, so it's Su Fong's Dharma treasure? Even if it's Su Fong's Dharma treasure, so what? At this moment, this Dharma treasure has no owner. Anyone can take it." Just as Bai Ling was about to put away the Infinity Chariot, a cold shout suddenly came from the sky. Then, a godly power with a majestic aura that could restrain the Big Goblin, the Demon Clan, and all kinds of evil forces pushed Bai Ling, Qingyu, and Law back. Then, the Infinity Chariot flew out of the boundary of the Purple Chaos Godly Realm. "How dare you take Su Fong's Dharma treasure?" Bai Ling was furious. His figure flashed and drew a strange arc. Then, he caught up with the Infinity Chariot in the blink of an eye and grabbed it from the sky. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. More than a dozen figures flashed out of the sky. They were all Lord-level masters. Among them, there was even a peak-level Lord-level Master God. He unleashed his godly power and suppressed Bai Ling, Qingyu, and Law. Sensing the aura of several experts, Law raised his eyebrows. Sanskrit? Previously, the Su Fang spared your Sanskrit for the sake of the Brahma monarch realm. Now that you dare to snatch the transcendent artifact of the Su Fang, aren't you afraid that the Su Fang will exterminate your Sanskrit clan? A yellow-browed old man from Sanskrit, who was also the strongest peak over God, roared furiously. Brahma monarch and Zhu monarch entered the Advent God palace with Sovereign Tru Yang. At this moment, Sovereign Tru Yang's natal lamp has shattered. He's clearly dead. Moreover, Su Fang has entered the descending world divine palace. Our clan's supreme sovereign must have been killed by Su Fang. Sanskrit must avenge such a great enmity. So what if we snatch his magic weapon? Qingyu shouted domineeringly. Since Su Fang can slay Sanskrit's Sovereign Tru Yang, why can't he exterminate your entire clan? An ordinary-looking old man sneered. Not long ago, there was a great commotion inside the Advent God Palace that shook the heavens and earth. Something big must have happened. The Infinity Chariot is such a precious treasure, yet it's been lost here. This means that even if Su Fang isn't dead, he's still severely injured. What's there to fear? You're courting death. Bai Ling, come back. Qingyu's gaze turned fierce. Demonic fire surged out of his body, and then he opened his mouth and sucked Bai Ling into his stomach. The dozen or so overgods attacked Bai Ling, Qingyu, and Law. The yellow-browed old man from Sanskrit took the opportunity to suck the Infinity Chariot into his body. Qingyu used his Kuan transformation innate talent and transformed into a giant Kuanping. He actually clashed with the three lesser overgods without showing any signs of being defeated. Instead, he had the upper hand. Law was even more astonishing. He used the divine ability of the Azura God clan, and the burning flames of sin turned into a world that enveloped the six overgods. In the past few years, Qingyu and Law had been cultivating in the Sanctum of Sages, enjoying the best cultivation resources in the universe. Although it wasn't a long time, cultivating in the Sanctum of Sages Hall of Spring and Autumn was equivalent to cultivating for hundreds of thousands of years. How could their strength not soar? This was especially true for Law. After fusing with the fruit of sin and cleansing himself of the karma of slaughter, the speed of his improvement was astonishing. Only Bai Ling, because she was originally an ordinary crane demon, compared to Qingyu and Luo, her talent was mediocre. At this moment, she had already been left far behind by Qingyu. The yellow-browed old man from Sanskrit and the ordinary-looking old man hadn't made a move yet. Otherwise, Qingyu and Law wouldn't have been able to hold on until now. Since we've obtained the Infinity Chariot, we should leave quickly and head to the Advent God Palace, the yellow-browed old man from Sanskrit said. How can we let these minions of Su Fang get away so easily? The ordinary-looking overgod snorted coldly, and resentment surged from his eyes. For some reason, this person hated Su Fang so much. Qi. A beam of sword qi shot out from the old man's eyes, turning into a white sword light. It carried with it a vast and awe-inspiring righteousness as it pierced through Law's world of blood and flames. Not only did the sword light contain a terrifying power that almost reached the peak of the overgod realm, but it also had the power to restrain all evil. It shattered Law's world of blood and flames in an instant, and the flames of sin were incinerated by the sword light. Law's divine body was also injured by the sword light. Fortunately, it was only a ripple effect. The sword light severed his right arm, but the overwhelming righteousness in the sword light was constantly eroding Law's divine body, making it difficult for him to reform a new right arm. The sword light's remaining power was not yet exhausted, and it continued to attack Qingyu. You dare to kill me? Aren't you afraid that Su Fang will skin you alive? Qingyu was shocked and furious. His huge body quickly shrank, turning into an azure ping, and disappeared into the void. Do you think you can escape? The ordinary-looking old man smiled coldly. The sword light tore through the air and disappeared, pursuing Qin Yu. Azura, how dare you appear so openly in the world of cultivators? Die. The old man still did not let Law go. He was about to use his sword Qi to kill Law. At this moment, with a swish, Qin Yu's original form actually shot through the air again. However, the sword light that had pursued him had completely vanished, and he seemed to be unscathed. You can actually nullify my sword Qi? That's impossible. The old man was surprised. Soon after, his killing intent became apparent. Since you dare to return, you're courting death. You're the one courting death. Su Fang's voice was like the voice of the heavens. It was filled with killing intent. As his voice echoed, there was a flash of light, and it quickly condensed into Su Fang's divine body. Su Fang. The ordinary-looking old man and the yellow-browed old man of Sanskrit immediately changed. All the other cultivators watching the battle turned into ice sculptures in an instant. Law let out a hearty laugh. Su Fang, if you came any later, you'd have to collect our corpses. Qin Yu snorted. This brat always waits until the most critical moment to make a move. Only then can he show his power. Su Fang was speechless. He used his yang power to nullify the sword Qi in Law's body, and at the same time, allowed Law's injuries to quickly recover. Looking at the yellow-browed old man of Sanskrit, Su Fang's eyes suddenly became fierce. You want to snatch my Su Fang's magic treasure? It seems that I, Su Fang, was too lenient. The yellow-browed old man trembled. He quickly took out the infinity wheel and sent it in front of Su Fang. He bowed and said, You thought that I would never be able to come out of the Advent Divine Palace, right? You said that Brahma Monarch fell in the Advent Divine Palace and was killed by me? Where did you get this information? Su Fang put away the infinity wheel and stared at the yellow-browed old man. The yellow-browed old man hesitated, as if there was something he couldn't say. Forget it. You don't have to say any more. Su Fang grabbed at the yellow-browed old man in the air with his right hand. Blood essence surged in his palm, forming a blood whirlpool that released an astonishing devouring power. The divine power instantly shrouded the yellow-browed old man, forming a blue sky blood dome world. The blood dome in the sky surged, and the blood water below roared. Hiss! Hiss! The yellow-browed old man was shackled by Su Fang's blue sky blood dome world. His blood essence and blood vessels surged out crazily and were devoured by the divine power in Su Fang's palm. In the end, even his nascent spirit failed to escape. It was all devoured by Su Fang's divine power before being absorbed into Su Fang's body. After becoming a middle-rank lord, Su Fang's great perfection-level body had undergone another metamorphosis. When he used Blood Dome, he easily suppressed a peak lord-level powerhouse, devouring all of their blood chi, bloodline, and even primordial spirit. Su Fang was now so powerful that he could kill lords like he was slaughtering chickens. Apart from the ordinary-looking old man, the others were all terrified. They were extremely shocked by Su Fang's strength. None of them dared to flee. Even a peak lord powerhouse had been killed so easily, so where could the others flee to? Su Fang handed the yellow-browed old man's nascent spirit to his second nascent spirit to deal with. He searched his soul and stripped his memories. Su Fang looked at the ordinary-looking old man. You dare to kill a friend of mine, Su Fang? Under Su Fang's gaze, the old man immediately shivered as if he had been frozen. Fear flashed through his eyes. However, he was extremely unyielding. He raised his head and said, The Aeon chariot has been lost here and has become an ownerless object. Everyone can fight over it. I'm a righteous cultivator. I've killed the big goblin and the evil Azura to rid humanity of a scourge. What have I done wrong? Su Fang chuckled. The old man continued righteously, as the Yuan Tiangong's holy son, Su Fang, the survival of the universe is tied to you, yet you're so arrogant and despotic. You've killed Emperor Qi and Emperor Yi, and you've wiped out entire clans and killed people. Aren't you afraid of being condemned by the world for being so brutal and despotic? If you want to kill me, go ahead. I won't resist. Many cultivators who were watching from afar looked at Su Fong with awe, but there was also a hint of hostility in their eyes. I, Su Fong, act according to my heart. Why would I care about what others think or say? Su Fong said domineeringly. Then he sneered. You're a traitor of the human race, yet you're speaking so eloquently about getting rid of a scourge for the human race. What a joke! Panic flashed through the old man's eyes, but his expression didn't change. You want to kill me. I'm not as strong as you, so I won't resist. However, you've slandered me. I'd rather die than fight you. Su Fong's eyes were frozen. Emperor Hao Yuan, you betrayed the human race in the War of the Two Realms and colluded with the Tao Defiance Alliance. You almost let the Tao Defiance Alliance break through the sky canopy, yet you're still openly appearing in the universe and talking nonsense in front of me. I'd like to see who gave you such courage. Emperor Hao Yuan? He betrayed the human race in the War of the Two Realms and still dares to appear? All the cultivators were shocked and surprised. During the War of the Two Realms, Emperor Hao Yuan had secretly let Demon Saint and an emperor from the Tao Defiance Alliance into the Sky Beacon God World. They had launched a sneak attack at the critical moment and almost killed Xiao Wanting. If Su Fong hadn't acted in time and turned the situation around, the sky canopy would have been gone. Once it was broken, the Tao Defiance Alliance would have marched straight in. Who knew how many god worlds would have been conquered by the Tao Defiance Alliance, and how many gods would have died? When the war ended, Emperor Hao Yuan had taken the opportunity to escape, and his whereabouts were unknown. No one had expected this. Chapter 2575. As expected of Su Fong. Even the supreme existences of the imperial people can't see through this emperor's forbidden technique of changing my appearance and aura without using their supreme divine abilities. But you actually recognized this emperor's true identity so easily. The old man's face wriggled and his aura changed greatly. Finally, he turned into an elegant middle-aged man. It was Emperor Hao Yuan. Su Fong indifferently said, Hao Yuan, it's your bad luck to have encountered me. Will you obediently surrender, or do you want me to suppress you and then perform a soul search on you? Emperor Hao Yuan smiled lightly. Su Fong, you can't kill this emperor. Su Fong revealed a domineering smile. In this world, there's no one that I, Su Fong, can't kill and dare not kill. Emperor Hao Yuan took out a jade slip and flew it to Su Fong. Su Fong's eyes shot out flames and burned the jade slip to ashes. He said coldly, no matter what you rely on, you're doomed to die today for trying to kill my friend. Die. The divine power of the world of yin and yang erupted and turned into a universe that was countless times condensed and enveloped Emperor Hao Yuan. Emperor Hao Yuan became anxious and shouted, Su Fong, this emperor has now surrendered to the imperial people and become their slave. If you dare to kill me, you'll offend the supreme imperial people. The supreme existences of the imperial people will never let you go. Imperial people? Su Fong was not surprised. He didn't expect that the imperial people would take in this traitor of the human race. Were the imperial people not afraid of being cursed? No one can save you, not even the supreme existences of the imperial people. Su Fong's voice filled with killing intent resounded in the universe. Su Fong, how dare you defy the supreme imperial people? Emperor Hao Yuan shouted angrily and fearfully. Rumble. The power of the entire universe pressed down on Emperor Hao Yuan. At the same time, the ancestor fiend blood plate also appeared above Emperor Hao Yuan. It burst out with primordial spirit godly aura, creating a powerful impact on Emperor Hao Yuan's divine aperture. Emperor Hao Yuan bitterly held on for about half an incense stick's worth of time before he was crushed by Su Fong's universe and the power of the ancestral devil blood plate. His primordial spirit was sucked into the ancestral devil blood plate. His corpse was not wasted either. The ancestral dragon unceremoniously sucked it into Su Fang's inner world and swallowed it whole, turning it into nutrients for the ancestral dragon's recovery. An Emperor Realm Master could help the ancestral dragon recover a lot. Saint of Su Fang, spare my life. The cultivators who followed Emperor Hao Yuan all knelt down and begged Su Fang for mercy. Kill them all. Leave no one alive. Not only did these people snatch the Infinity Chariot, but they also attacked Qin Yu and Luo. How could Su Fang let them go? Su Fang released Emperor Guanghan from the prison suppressing codex. In front of him, those over-gods were like a bunch of weak chickens. They were easily suppressed by Emperor Guanghan and then thrown into the Builder Tree's dimension by Su Fang. Heaven? But why? Dripping umbrella? Brother Qin Yu, Luo, let's go. Su Fang took Qin Yu and Luo into his inner world and then teleported away. Su Fang had returned from the Advent Divine Palace. After Su Fang returned from Advent Divine Palace, news of him killing Emperor Vast and the Brahma clan powerhouses in the Purple Great Divine World spread through the infinite worlds in the shortest time possible, even reaching Primordius Heavenly Palace. The myriad worlds were shocked again. Brahma Monarch died in the Advent Divine Palace. Emperor Jin Yang and the others must have died as well. Now, Emperor Hao Yuan and Sanskrit are here. Why is Su Fang so bloodthirsty? I heard that Imperial Exalt Hao Yuan has been subdued by the supreme existences of the Imperial clans, and he was about to be sent to the Tao Defiance Alliance to make up for his crimes. I never expected that Su Fang would actually openly look down upon the supreme existences of the Imperial clans and directly kill Imperial Exalt Hao Yuan. Up to now, there are 7 or 8 Emperor Realm Masters who have died in Su Fang's hands. There are only 30 or so emperors in the human clan, but he killed 30 or 40% of them. It's too cruel. I still don't know what will happen after Su Fang enters the Celestial Worthy Mountain. He has already started to kill the experts of the human clan. If he can resolve the crisis of the world's upheaval in the Celestial Worthy Mountain, who can suppress him then? For a time, all kinds of rumors were flying around. Su Fang's actions made him the target of public criticism. If he wasn't the only one who could enter the Celestial Worthy Mountain, find out the truth of the world's upheaval, and resolve the crisis, the Imperial people would have already attacked him. 3 months later, Su Fang returned to the Yuan Tiangong. All kinds of rumors immediately died down, for fear that some rumors would reach Su Fang's ears and bring about a fatal disaster. The Emperor Realm Masters of the Fire God Zhu clan followed Su Fang back to the Yuan Tiangong. Only then did the incident inside the Advent Divine Palace become public. Only then did people know that Emperor Jingyang was the puppet of the legendary Golden Crow. Brahma Monarch and another Emperor Realm Master had died in the hands of Emperor Jingyang. The Emperor Realm Masters of the Zhu clan didn't know much about Su Fang killing the clone of Emperor Jingyang, nor did they reveal anything. Although the misunderstanding was cleared up, people's impression of Su Fang's bloodthirsty nature didn't change much. They were only afraid of Su Fang's fierce reputation, so no one dared to talk about it anymore. The Saint Temple. After Su Fang searched Emperor Hao Yuan's soul, he received some surprising news. From Emperor Hao Yuan's memories, Su Fang learned that Emperor Hao Yuan had indeed joined the Imperial people and was preparing to go to the Tao Defiance Alliance. However, it wasn't as the Imperial people had said, that Emperor Hao Yuan sneaked into the Tao Defiance Alliance to atone for his crimes. Instead, it was to connect him with the Tao Defiance Alliance's leader. As for what kind of deal the Imperial people had with the Tao Defiance Alliance's leader, Emperor Hao Yuan couldn't find it in his memories. Although Su Fang had vaguely guessed something, he didn't dare to be certain. From the memories of the yellow-browed old man from the Sanskrit, Su Fang learned that after the fall of the Brahma monarch, the Imperial people took the opportunity to annex the Sanskrit forces. At this time, the Sanskrit had become a vassal of the Imperial people. The rumor that Su Fang had killed the Brahma monarch in the divine palace of Advent came from the imperial people. The imperial people's intention couldn't be clearer. They wanted to spread the news of Su Fang's brutality and completely isolate Su Fang. We haven't even entered the exalted celestial mountain, but the imperial people are already preparing to kill us once we've outlived our usefulness. The imperial people are playing with fire. Su Fang sneered. The Emperor clan was spreading rumors at this time. Their goal was precisely to attack Su Fang's prestige. After entering the exalted celestial mountain, if they succeeded, it would still be difficult for Su Fang to wash away their cruel reputation and threaten the imperial people. If they failed, what awaited Su Fang would be the ruthless suppression of the imperial people. The other major forces and venerable sovereigns would also take the opportunity to hit them when they were down. Su Fang even speculated that the supreme existence of the imperial people had sent the traitor Hao Yuan to the Tao Defiance Alliance for no other reason than to use the Tao Defiance Alliance to kill him. As expected of the number one divine clan in the myriad of worlds, the imperial people are so proficient in politics that they want to use such a scheme to deal with me. The supreme expert of the imperial people, Di Hao, would never have thought that after saving Senior Marshal's sister, subduing the ancestral dragon and obtaining the supreme fortune in the divine palace of Advent, I have the ability to suppress even a transcendent being, let alone a venerable sovereign. All politics and schemes are jokes in the face of absolute power. Imperial people, I don't care what kind of schemes you have, I'll destroy them with a punch. The imperial people better not do anything stupid. Otherwise, the number one divine clan in the myriad of worlds will have a new master. Su Fang was once the peerless overlord of the small world and the great world. At this moment, he had once again returned to Su Fang. Then, more news came in an unending stream. It turned out that the ancestral devil had fled the divine palace of Advent after the ancestral devil's clone was killed. He had led all the demons back to the world of darkness. The Tao Defiance Alliance's leader had also begun to shrink his forces and capture all the cultivators and big goblin in the divine realms that the Tao Defiance Alliance had previously controlled. No one knew what he was planning. The human cultivators took the opportunity to counterattack and occupy various divine realms. At this moment, most of the divine realms in the myriad of worlds had fallen into the control of the human cultivators. At least on the surface, the situation seemed to be under the complete control of the human race. Su Fang had originally planned to kill the Tao Defiance Alliance's leader and eliminate all future troubles. When he thought of the imperial people's scheme, Su Fang dispelled that thought. He would leave the Tao Defiance Alliance alive for now and make the imperial people and human cultivators feel threatened at all times. Perhaps this way, they wouldn't do something as stupid as abandoning the bough after the birds had been killed. Su Fang's ambition had been set outside the heavens since a long time ago, so how could he be limited to this part of the universe? So, he didn't really want to destroy the imperial people. If that happened, the myriad of worlds would definitely fall into chaos, and that was absolutely not the outcome he wanted. Of course, if the imperial people were courting death, then Su Fang couldn't be blamed for it. Su Fang didn't want to expose his true strength too early, so he kept the matter of the ancestral dragon and Shu Wanjin under wraps. The ancestral devil had witnessed Shu Wanjin and Su Fang working together to activate the Origin Sacred Mirror and display their formidable strength. He had already retreated to the world of darkness, so there was no need to worry that he would leak the news. Su Fang also arranged for Shu Yunkong and Shu Wanjin to meet. What happened to Shu Wanjin made Shu Yunkong feel guilty for the rest of his life. Now that he saw his daughter safe and sound, and had even become a peerless master god, he was naturally overjoyed and cried tears of joy. However, Shu Wanjin was neither cold nor warm towards Shu Yunkong. Clearly, Shu Wanjin hadn't let go of what happened back then. In addition, she cultivated the 9E9 transformations and had a cold temperament. At this moment, other than Su Fang, she kept everyone at arm's length. Xu Wanjin entered the hall of spring and autumn to cultivate and entered a state of seclusion. The ancestral dragon left Su Fang and went to wander the myriad of worlds. QL11 he had yet to fully recover, so the resources in Yuan Tiangong were useless to him. Furthermore, with his powerful strength, it was difficult for the Yuan Tiangong to contain him. What a joke! If he opened his mouth and inhaled, half the sky in Yuan Tiangong would probably collapse. If he was placed in Yuan Tiangong, it would be strange if he didn't cause a huge commotion. With the beast token, Su Fang wasn't afraid of the ancestral dragon causing any trouble. Su Fang spent 1,000 years with his father, Su Yaotian and Xuanxin. Goddess Luo's departure and his grandfather's soul being taken to outer space made Su Fang value his family even more. 1,000 years later, Su Fang entered a state of seclusion to make the final preparations for entering the celestial worthy mountain. Activating the infinity wheel, Su Fang began to integrate the world essence in the lotus gem under the power of time. Right now, I've reached the peak of middle rank lord level. With the help of the lotus gem, I should be able to elevate to middle rank lord level easily. Su Fang took out the lotus gems nurtured by the world fragments. There were a total of 3. He placed the lotus gem in the Tao Palace of Heaven and Earth to remove the seal. World force from outer space was released from the lotus gem. The world tree and the Tao Palace of Heaven and Earth formed by the 77 branches were like ferocious beasts, wildly absorbing the world essence. After the world tree absorbed the world force, it began to shatter and reconstruct itself continuously. The power from outer space was like a marrow cleansing, causing the world tree to undergo a metamorphosis. Not only did the world of yin and yang become more profound and perfect, but it also underwent a qualitative change, transforming into a higher-level energy. This also meant that Su Fang's power was gradually breaking away from this part of the universe. Instead, it was transforming into the high-level energy of the Jiuxuan God territory. He was getting closer and closer to truly transcending this part of the universe. The world of yin and yang surged out of the world tree, circulating in the 77 yang meridians with the power of the cycle of heaven and earth. Swish! A commotion came from Su Fang's body. Releasing his consciousness and looking at the Tao Palace of Heaven and Earth, Su Fang couldn't stop grinning. Chapter 2576. Last time, I spent a Herculean effort to obtain Mei Shuero's plum spirit chi and finally formed a yang meridian. Compared to last time, the birth of the 78th yang meridian was simply too easy. The power from beyond the heavens is truly extraordinary. Just fusing with the lotus gem produced by the world fragment allowed me to successfully form a yang meridian. The world fragment is truly a treasure. If I can refine the entire world fragment, what kind of shocking changes will it bring me? The birth of another yang meridian before entering the exalted celestial mountain was truly timely. An additional yang meridian meant an increase in strength and cultivation speed. Of course, it was a great thing. Next, Su Fang gathered all the energy in his body and attacked the 78th yang meridian. After a series of attacks, the entire heavenly Tao Palace was shaken. Finally, the Yang Qi Xian Guang exploded in the 78th yang meridian, causing a dazzling light to illuminate the heavenly Tao Palace. When everything calmed down, the meridian turned into a jade-like yang meridian. Next, the yang meridian moved, causing the heavenly Tao Palace to become a vast universe formed by the 78th yang meridian. Just like that, the 78th yang meridian was successfully born. After more than 10 years, the 78th yang meridian had settled down, and the yang qi that had been consumed had also recovered to its full state. When Su Fang used the 9 yang 9 transformations, he felt the 9 yang qi circulating in his body increase significantly. This was the overall benefit that the additional yang meridian brought to Su Fang. This also meant that Su Fang's cultivation speed had reached a new height. Although it was still not as shocking as before in the small and great worlds, it was much faster than before. Next, Su Fang continued to settle down in his cultivation state. All kinds of magic treasures were further integrated. This was especially true for the Empyrean astrolabe. This magic treasure was related to his future cultivation talent. Su Fang spent most of his energy on cultivating the Empyrean mysteries, using the Empyrean astrolabe to continuously deduce and comprehend. The 9 Yang 9 transformations, the heavenly secret life shrinking technique, and other cultivation techniques were also constantly being consolidated and accumulated. With Xu Wanjin by his side, Su Fang could practice yin-yang dual cultivation with her at any time. In addition to the birth of a new yang meridian, Su Fang's cultivation speed could be said to be 1,000 miles a day. There was also a steady stream of news coming in from outside. The practitioners and Big Goblin under Su Fang's command had been completely integrated and formed a powerful force. Apart from the fact that their foundation was not deep enough, their overall strength was not inferior to those ancient Shen clans and sects. In addition, with the soulless assassin organization, it was very convenient for Su Fang to gather information now. He could mix in and out of Yuan Tiangong, and even the entire myriad world. If there was any movement, he would be able to receive news. As the date for Su Fang to enter Tianzuan Mountain gradually approached, some rumors about Su Fang spread throughout Yuan Tiangong. Although the human race had regained control of most of the God realm, this was only a temporary phenomenon. If they did not solve the root cause of the world's abnormalities, the calamity would come again at any time. Everyone was deeply worried. The 8th blood sun will rise at any time, and once again the world's abnormalities will erupt. At that time, not only will the Defiance make a comeback, but the heavenly Tao will also be tainted by the blood sun. The human cultivators will no longer have a foothold. All hope is on Su Fang. If Su Fang fails to enter Tianzuan Mountain like Di Yuan last time, the consequences will be unimaginable. The Yuan Tiangong has given Su Fang the best resources and has repeatedly allowed him to do whatever he wants. Even venerable sovereigns were wantonly slaughtered by him. If he fails this time, how can he face the people of the myriad world? If he fails to enter Tianzuan Mountain, he will die anyway. In that case, Su Fang will die in front of me. It was related to the future and survival of the myriad world. Many people had lost their minds. They hoped that Su Fang could turn the situation around like he did in the War of the Two Realms. However, they were also worried that Su Fang would fail and the myriad world would fall into a state of eternal damnation. As a result, Su Fang became the focus of countless people. If he succeeded in entering Tianzuan Mountain this time, everyone would be happy. However, if he failed, Su Fang would probably become a sinner of the myriad world. Since when did entering Tianzuan Mountain and finding the truth of the world's abnormalities become my responsibility? Moreover, my purpose of entering Tianzuan Mountain is to find the truth, not to stop the world's abnormalities from continuing. But now they are pushing all the responsibility onto me. If the imperial people did not add fuel to the fire, how could this be possible? The imperial people are creating momentum. If I succeed in entering Tianzuan Mountain, it will be a matter of course. However, if I fail, I will become a sinner of the myriad world. What awaits me will be the merciless suppression of the imperial people. The imperial people are really calculating well. Su Fang saw through the imperial people's intentions at a glance and sneered disdainfully. At this time, he had the powerful strength to crush everything. Why would he be afraid of these schemes? Too lazy to pay attention to the rumors outside, Su Fang continued to settle down and cultivate. On this day, Di Xuan came to visit. Di Xuan came with the decree of Di Hao, the strongest of the imperial people. Su Fang had no choice but to meet him. As soon as he saw Su Fang, Di Xuan immediately felt an invisible pressure wash over him. He felt as if he was facing a part of the universe. It was vast, deep, and exuded supreme dominance and endless majesty. Dixuan had never felt such a feeling when facing the supreme existence of the imperial people. He had only experienced such a terrifying feeling when he met the mountain guardian by chance in the past. Could it be that Su Fang has already attained the supreme ability of a transcendent? Dixuan's heart was in turmoil. At the same time, he was puzzled. Su Fang is only a middle-rank lord now. Before the Great War of the Two Realms, he had only just elevated to become a lord. He's become a middle-rank lord so quickly, and he's even reached the peak. This discovery shocked Dixuan once again. His attitude toward Su Fang was no longer as calm and casual as before. At the same time, Dixuan was also secretly worried about the imperial people's future. Naturally, Dixuan was well aware of the imperial people's various actions against Su Fang. However, there was nothing he could do to change anything. In order to maintain their supreme power of dominating all the realms, the imperial people would never allow Su Fang to rise. However, Su Fang's heaven-defying rise had already begun, and no one could stop it. The conflict between the imperial people and Su Fang would certainly erupt in full force after the trip to the celestial worthy mountain. Dixuan handed a jade slip to Su Fang, then left in embarrassment. It was not an ordinary jade slip. Instead, it recorded many secrets within the celestial worthy mountain. Even the ancient Protoss had difficulty knowing them. Su Fang deciphered all the contents of the jade slip. His brows gradually furrowed. I'd thought that entering the celestial worthy mountain would mean entering directly with the origin holy mirror and trying to find some clues about the changes in heaven and earth. Who knew things weren't as simple as I imagined? Even if I have the origin holy mirror, I still have to go through many tests before I can enter the celestial worthy mountain. Moreover, the celestial worthy mountain is incomparably vast. Even transcendence would be shackled and restricted. After the changes in heaven and earth, who knows what it has become? Moreover, it's not as simple as just entering the celestial worthy mountain. There will always be a way when the time comes. With my current strength, entering the celestial worthy mountain with senior sister, even if we encounter any dangers, we will be able to avert them. What I need to do now is to improve my strength as soon as possible before entering the celestial worthy mountain. No longer worried or conflicted, he continued to cultivate. He cultivated in the sanctum of sages for 1,000 years. If the time spent in the Eternity Chariot and the Hall of Spring and Autumn were included, Su Fang had cultivated in seclusion for more than 100,000 years. On this day, a divine light flashed out of the sanctum of sages and immediately pierced through the air. It directly passed through the barrier separating the Yuan Tiangong from the world and arrived in the midst of nature. As soon as Su Fang's figure appeared, he cast his transcendental vision into the distance. Finally, he found an uninhabited physical ruin and stepped out. When he appeared, he was already above the physical ruin. He set up a formation and sat down cross-legged. A flame quickly burned on his body. That was the tribulation fire. Chi, 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 chi. The flames were truly astonishing. The physical ruin within 100,000 miles was affected by the flames. If not for the formation that Su Fang had set up in advance, the entire physical ruin and even the void would have melted. Every time he advanced, he would bring great pain. However, it was only through pain that he would undergo a transformation. Su Fang endured the immense pain with a smile on his face. Nearly a month later, the astonishing power of advancement began to surge throughout his body. An upper-rank lord. Su Fang had successfully broken through another level and advanced to become an upper-rank lord. Su Fang was overjoyed. After waiting for 3 years, the power of advancement gradually calmed down in his body. Advancing to an upper-rank lord brought about astonishing changes to Su Fang. Su Fang released his sensory abilities. His vision and hearing had undergone a transformation. Now, even without the help of the Origin sacred mirror, he could see through most regions of the universe. Moreover, he could see through the heavenly Tao of this part of the universe. His son's spirit had become several times stronger, and his divine orifice had become even more vast. Dense heavenly marks intertwined, forming a powerful divine orifice defense, which made it even sturdier and harder to shake. Even his primordial spirit's power of primordial spirit had become more powerful as his true body advanced. Then, Su Fang unleashed his divine power. A powerful divine power that transcended all restraints of heaven and earth permeated the surroundings. Su Fang's figure flickered, and he left this part of the universe. In an instant, he arrived in the chaos beyond the heavens. Su Fang could clearly sense that the shackles of the chaos beyond the heavens on him had become much weaker. It was not that the shackles had weakened. Instead, he had become more powerful. In particular, he had fused with the origin power essence from the world beyond the heavens. His yin-yang world power had become more advanced, allowing him to gain a certain level of ability to adapt to the chaos beyond the heavens. Of course, Su Fang was still far from being able to traverse the chaos beyond the heavens like Feng Han from Dongxuan's Feng clan. Now, I can finally be considered to be standing at the pinnacle of all worlds. Chapter 2577. In the following time, Su Fang began to use the Lotus Star Gem to stabilize his upper-rank Lord-level condition. At the same time, he began to attempt to integrate the world fragment from beyond the heavens. Not long after, Su Fang discovered something that made him feel helpless. The time-stop ability of the Infinity Car and the time acceleration ability of the River of Time in the Palace of Spring and Autumn were no longer so obvious on him. Why was that? Soon, Su Fang found the reason. It was because he was too powerful. The power of time had lost its effect on him. His elevation to upper-rank Lord level brought him closer to complete transcendence from this universe. The world in his body was also closer to becoming a complete universe. This made it difficult for the time in this universe to accelerate or reverse time on him. Transcendence meant transcending all restraints and shackles, including fate, space, energy, and of course, time. This was also a side effect of Su Fang's elevation in strength. Integrating the world fragment was not that easy. After all, it was a world fragment from beyond the heavens. It was too sturdy. No matter how extraordinary Su Fang was, he could not shake such an astonishing treasure to be able to give birth to a mystic world on this foundation. Su Fang could only be patient and refine it bit by bit. Fortunately, the world fragment would give birth to lotus gems every once in a while. The force of the mystic world from beyond the heavens contained in them was enough for Su Fang to cultivate at his current level. However, after Su Fang absorbed several lotus gems in succession, the Yang Meridian did not appear again. This was because Su Fang's Yang Meridian already contained high-grade energy from beyond the heavens. It had adapted to the essence of the lotus gems, so it naturally did not have the same effect as the first time. Su Fang also took out the lotus gems for Xu Wanjun to cultivate. Putting aside the fact that Xu Wanjun had done him a great favor, Xu Wanjun's elevation in strength also meant that the power unleashed by the Origin Holy Mirror when the two of them worked together would be even more powerful. Naturally, Su Fang would not be stingy with his treasures. Time flew by. 10,000 years. 20,000 years. 50,000 years. The 100,000-year deadline that Su Fang had agreed upon had unknowingly arrived. The Sanctum of Sages. All eyes were on this place. One after another, experts appeared outside the Sanctum of Sages. The Sanctum of Sages was located in the deepest part of the Yuan Tiangong. Those who were able to make it here were the upper echelons of the Yuan Tiangong, and even the weakest of them was a powerful overgod. Thus, the sovereigns of the Yuan Tiangong were all gathered here. In the square outside the Sanctum of Sages, many cultivators were seated cross-legged, patiently waiting for Su Fang to appear. Even the Emperor Realm Masters were looking at him cautiously. A beam of divine light flashed in the air and quickly condensed into the figure of the supreme existence of the imperial people. Then, step by step, he walked into the air and onto the square. Many experts came forward to greet him. The supreme existence of the imperial people said majestically, "The Su Fong hasn't appeared yet?" An emperor master replied, "That's right. Sir has come in person. How can we let you wait outside the hall? This emperor will ask Su Fong to come out and greet him." "It's fine. This emperor will wait here for Su Fong." QL11 The supreme existence of the imperial people actually sat down cross-legged in the square, closed his eyes, and waited. His actions won the respect of many powerhouses. As for Su Fong, some people were quite dissatisfied. He actually made the supreme existence of the imperial people wait for him. Wasn't he putting on a little too much airs? Inside the sanctum of sages, in a side hall, Su Fong was bidding farewell to his many relatives and friends. Su Fong had already made the necessary arrangements. He even left behind many of the magic treasures and resources that he didn't need. At the same time, Su Fong also left behind a clone to oversee the Sanctum of Sages. Although the strength of this clone was far inferior to the main body, it had the Beast Tamer token and could control the Ancestral Dragon. With the Ancestral Dragon around, who in the universe could touch Su Fong's relatives? His gaze swept across everyone. Seeing the concern and worry in their eyes, Su Fong felt a warmth in his heart. "Fong take care." Su Yaotian's eyes couldn't help but turn red. Xuanxin was also very worried. "Su Fong, be careful. Don't worry. In the universe, there's nothing that can threaten me. I'll be away for a while, and I'll return safely." Su Fong cupped his fists and bowed to his many relatives and friends, then strode out of the hall. When he arrived at the main hall, Shu Wanjin was already waiting there. During these years of cultivation in the Sanctum of Sages, Shu Wanjin had also successfully advanced to upper rank Lord level with the help of the world's essence contained in the Lotus Gem. To enter the celestial worthy mountain, two people had to work together to combine the mirrors. Therefore, Shu Wanjin was also the best candidate to enter the celestial worthy mountain. Shu Wanjin said, "Su Fong, let's go." "Wait a moment." Su Fong looked at the void and said, "Old dragon, come out." A young man with a square face and a golden robe walked out of the formation. It was the ancestral Graygon in his human form. After so many years, the ancestral Graygon had traversed the universe and plundered countless treasures. He had devoured many powerful divine beasts and ferocious beasts, as well as powerful demons and defiants. Although he had yet to recover to his peak state, he was not far from it. Su Fong had learned from the jade slip that Dixuan had given him that only he and Shu Wanjin could enter the celestial worthy mountain because of the origin holy mirror. The magic treasure space, and even the world in Su Fong's body, could not bring anyone into the celestial worthy mountain. Otherwise, they would be punished by the heavens and killed mercilessly. Su Fong had no choice but to leave all his subordinates behind. Even everyone in the Builder Tree's internal space was moved out, including the ancestral Graygon. The ancestral Graygon said, "Su Fong, do you really plan to enter the celestial worthy mountain? That place is 100 times more dangerous than the palace that shackles this ancestor. Why do you have to take this risk? Even if the world is destroyed, it has nothing to do with you. With your current strength and my help, you can just take your family and leave this universe. You'll be able to find a place to live in the chaos beyond the heavens. The heavenly Tao is about to be destroyed. Only Senior Sister and I can enter the celestial worthy mountain and find a way to resolve this calamity. It's true that I can leave, but that would also mean that I've completely severed all hope for this universe. Although I know it's dangerous, I have to go. Otherwise, it would go against my conscience and cause my Tao heart to be damaged. Moreover, if I take a detour when encountering danger, how can I cultivate? Although the trip to the celestial worthy mountain this time is dangerous, It's also a type of tempering and test for me. Cultivators have to face difficulties head-on. No matter how difficult and dangerous it is, I'll just kill my way out. Su Fang's flat tone revealed determination and heroism that shocked the ancestral Graygon. The ancestral Graygon shook his head. You humans are all a bunch of idiot. Su Fang continued. Old dragon, I treat you well, don't I? The ancestral Graygon immediately became alert. Kid, what do you want? When I enter the celestial worthy mountain, please take care of my family and friends. You have to ensure their safety. It's a small matter. If anyone dares to touch them, this ancestor will swallow him. If I encounter any mishaps in the celestial worthy mountain, not only do you have to protect their safety, but you also have to find a way to take them out of this universe and settle them down properly. As long as you can do this, I'll return the beast taming tablet to you and your freedom. Is that so? This ancestor can promise you. What other nonsense do you have to say? Say it all at once. I have a small request. Give me 1,000 drops of your blood essence. The ancestral Graygon immediately roared. 1,000 drops? Kid, don't be too greedy. Then I'll have it. Get lost. Don't even think about getting a single strand of hair from this ancestor. You don't have hair to begin with. 200 drops of blood essence should be enough, right? I'm even willing to give you the last of the soul marrow nether milk. Do you still care about this little bit of blood essence? After a round of bargaining, Su Fang finally walked out of the main hall in satisfaction. There were 100 drops of the ancestral Graygon's blood essence sealed in the depths of his body. At the same time, there was also an ancestral Graygon scale. It was not an ordinary scale. It was the sturdiest scale that the ancestral Graygon had shed from its body when it transcended. It had a powerful defensive ability. Moreover, Su Fang had fused with the ancestral Graygon's blood essence, and could easily fuse with it. At a critical moment, it could be used to save his life. Su Fang sucked Shu Wanjin into his inner world from his palm. Then, he passed through the formation and walked out of the Saint Palace. Seeing the people in the square, Su Fang was not surprised at all. The supreme existence of the imperial people had a smile on his face. Su Fang, is the saint ready? The saint will definitely succeed in this trip to the celestial worthy mountain. Just like the War of the Two Realms, you'll be able to turn the situation around and resolve the catastrophe of the myriad realms. The other venerable sovereigns and peerless sovereigns also spoke up, wishing Su Fang that he could resolve the crisis of the myriad realms on this trip to the celestial worthy mountain. They praised Su Fang as the savior of the myriad realms, as if he was the savior of the myriad realms. Su Fang sneered in his heart. His calm gaze swept across the crowd and finally landed on the supreme existence of the imperial people, Di Hao. Lord Di Hao seems to have misunderstood something. I'm only going to the celestial worthy mountain to find the cause of the myriad realms, how to stop them, and whether or not I can stop them from happening. I can only say that I'll do my best, but I dare not promise that I'll be able to do it. The supreme existence of the venerable sovereign's expression froze. It had been a long time since someone had spoken to him in such a tone and even called him by his name. Although he was angry in his heart, Di Hao still maintained a pleasant expression. I've already made arrangements. Naturally, I won't let you bear such a big responsibility alone. You can't bear it anyway. Su Fang then looked at the crowd and said slowly, Before I leave, I have to give you a few words of advice. Everyone, including those venerable sovereigns, felt an invisible pressure on their faces. They couldn't help but feel a chill run down their spines. When I entered the prison suppression codex, everyone thought that I had died in there. As a result, all kinds of monsters jumped out and wantonly bullied my family and friends. In the 10 underworlds, when I became a master god, I was once again mistakenly thought that I had died. In the end, some blind people tried to steal my treasures and kill my family and subordinate. I'm sure everyone knows what the result was, so I won't repeat it. Su Fang's words made everyone's heart skip a beat. The first time, when Su Fang returned from the divine prison of law, he went on a killing spree and annihilated the Ji people. He slapped the imperial people hard in the face and embarrassed the supreme existence of the imperial people. The second time, when Su Fang killed Emperor Qi, Emperor Yi, and other venerable sovereigns, he caused the decline of the Qi people, the Yi clan, and other ancient divine clans. Who would dare to forget these things? This time, when I enter the celestial worthy mountain, I may encounter unexpected dangers. Therefore, I have to warn everyone in advance, lest some unpleasant things happen when I return from the celestial worthy mountain. At that time, people will say that I, Su Fang, am cruel and merciless, killing humans. Su Fang's casual voice was like a sharp and cold blade that swept through everyone's hearts, including those venerable sovereigns. They suddenly felt as if they had fallen into an ice cave. They felt as if their bodies were covered in ice shards and shivered. Di Hao smiled indifferently. A fierce aura surged in his heart. Of course, he knew that Su Fang's words were not only a warning to everyone, but also to the imperial people. Let's go to the celestial worthy mountain. Di Hao flicked his sleeve and left the square. Su Fang also tore through the air and left. Chapter 2578. At the end of the universe. It was a chaotic spacetime. There was no natural energy of heaven and earth, no time, and no space. Everything was in a state of eternity, as if there was no past and no future. Su Fang, Di Hao, and many other venerable sovereigns were shackled in this spacetime. They had no choice but to use the power of their own worlds to resist the shackles and chill around them. The supreme being of the imperial people, Di Hao, said, "Su Fang, the exalted celestial mountain is at the end of the universe. The last time Di Yuan failed to enter the exalted celestial mountain, the exalted celestial mountain went into hiding. Now, only you can enter the exalted celestial mountain with the help of the origin holy mirror." Su Fang, I understand. Su Fang flew out slowly under the divine might of his yin-yang world. A figure flashed out of Su Fang's body along with Su Fang's divine might. It was Xu Wanjun. That woman in black is the cultivator who has mastered the extreme yin side of the origin holy mirror? It looks like she's just an upper-rank lord. Even if she joins forces with Su Fang, can they really enter the exalted celestial mountain and find out the reason for the changes in heaven and earth? Mysterious. I think Su Fang and that woman will have a hard time even entering the exalted celestial mountain. It was Xu Wanjun's first time appearing in front of everyone. The venerable sovereigns immediately whispered among themselves. Many venerable sovereigns did not think highly of Xu Wanjun's cultivation level. Although upper-rank lords were extraordinary, they were nothing in the eyes of these venerable sovereigns. Senior sister, success or failure depends on this. If we combine the origin holy mirror, I wonder if we can make the exalted celestial mountain appear. Su Fang did not have much confidence. If even the origin holy mirror could not make the exalted celestial mountain appear, then all hope would be lost. Su Fang took out the origin yang mirror. Xu Wanjun also took out her origin yin mirror. She said coldly, "There's no need to think about success or failure. We'll just do our best." Bang! Su Fang and Xu Wanjun activated the treasured mirrors with the 9 yang and 9 yin powers at the same time. The two mirrors suddenly combined. Then, the two of them simultaneously struck out a series of dazzling hand seals. The hand seals were extremely complex and contained vast and profound heavenly Tao mysteries. Even the Emperor Realm Masters were shocked when they saw them. Some of the Emperor Realm Masters tried to deduce the hand seals, but the result was either dizziness or vomiting blood. The heavenly Tao contained in that handprint had already surpassed the realm of these Emperor Masters. However, there were also some powerful Emperor Realm Masters who managed to catch a glimpse of these hand seals. Although they only managed to comprehend bits and pieces of it, it still brought them great benefits, comparable to what they would gain after cultivating in seclusion for millions of years. Their eyes shone brightly. Seeing Su Fang and Shu Wanzhen's hand seals, many emperors felt relieved. The hand seals that Su Fang and Shu Wanzhen were executing were the ones that they had comprehended from the Origin Divine Mirror during their several dozen millennia of seclusion in the Sanctum of Sages. These hand seals were far more complex and profound than the yin-yang change and the four divisions change. They did not have any offensive or defensive power, and their only function was to unseal a vast spirit array in the Origin Divine Mirror, allowing it to erupt with power that Su Fang could not predict. Su Fang speculated that this spirit array, which had been sealed in the Origin Divine Mirror for a long time, was left behind by a heavenly venerable himself. The purpose of this spirit array was to allow the owner of the Origin Divine Mirror to enter the heavenly venerable mountain. QL11 Boom. A vast and ethereal divine power erupted from the Origin Divine Mirror. It contained a terrifying aura that could split the heavens and earth, shrouding the void in front of it. Rumble. The sound of the heavenly Tao reverberated throughout the world, causing the entire universe to tremble. A huge mountain slowly emerged from the chaotic void in front of them. At first, it was a blurry outline, but then it quickly became real. This mountain was majestic and majestic. The rocks, water, and even the grass and trees on the mountain contained the supreme heavenly Tao laws. This mountain was the embodiment of the entire heavenly Tao. In the face of such a huge mountain, all the supreme venerables trembled. A feeling of insignificance and humility arose spontaneously in their hearts. The heavenly venerable mountain. Su Fang fixed his eyes on it. At the foot of the heavenly venerable mountain, there was a roaring ocean. It was the source of the heavenly Tao, the Tao Sea. Su Fang used the divine eye of heaven and could see rivers of nothingness. Some were as vast as great rivers, and some were like streams. There were countless of them, all converging in the Tao Sea. These rivers were the Tao rivers that maintained the operation of the heavenly Tao. At the same time, Su Fang was shocked and desperate to find that every Tao river, and even the entire Tao Sea, was permeated by the evil death qi and evil qi. Even the scenery around the heavenly venerable mountain was covered with a layer of evil death qi. As the changes in heaven and earth intensified, the heavenly venerable mountain was also contaminated by the power of the evil god. The situation became more and more serious. That should be the only way to enter the heavenly venerable mountain. Su Fang saw that there were steps leading from the foot of the mountain to a palace on the ridge of the mountain. There were only 99 steps in total, connecting the outside world to the inside of the heavenly venerable mountain. This path was called the path to heaven, and it was the only way to enter the heavenly venerable mountain. Seeing the heavenly venerable mountain appear in the power of the Origin sacred mirror, many supreme venerables breathed a long sigh of relief. At least they had a chance to enter the heavenly venerable mountain. Little did they know in the next moment, 7 balls of blood light suddenly appeared in the sky above the heavenly venerable mountain. In an instant, they turned into viscous blood water, and finally turned into 7 huge blood suns hanging high in the sky. The 7 blood suns that caused the changes in heaven and earth had all appeared at this moment. One could clearly see that there was a huge blood-colored tomb hidden inside each of the blood suns. The evil death qi and blood-colored light were released from the blood tombs. They released an astonishing evil death qi, causing the entire heavenly venerable mountain, the Tao Sea, and the Tao River to be covered in a layer of blood-colored halo. It was like a barrier, completely isolating the heavenly venerable mountain from the outside world. How could this be? It's the descent of the evil god. He wants to use the power of the blood sun and evil sun to stop Su Fang and the woman in black from entering the heavenly venerable mountain. It's over. It's completely over now. Even with the Origin sacred mirror, it's difficult to enter the heavenly venerable mountain. The myriad worlds are completely finished. Despair appeared in the eyes of all supreme venerables, including the supreme existence of the imperial people, Di Hao. Their hearts had completely sunk into an endless abyss. Even if the evil god descends, he won't be able to stop me, Su Fang shouted domineeringly. Together with Shu Wanjin, he once again made a series of astonishing hand seals. The Origin's sacred mirror erupted with terrifying power again. Chi, 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 chi. 9 dazzling red lights suddenly shot out from the Origin's sacred mirror, projecting near the 7 blood suns. There were a total of 9 red lights. As soon as these red lights appeared, they immediately emitted an astonishing supreme yang divine aura, dispelling the shackles and coldness in the space-time. Even the blood suns suddenly dimmed, and the blood-red halo that enveloped the heavenly venerable mountain, the Tao Sea, and the Tao River was weakened. The 9 red lights quickly condensed and turned into 9 red divine suns. Not only that, but another divine sun emerged from the void. A total of 10 divine suns appeared above the heavenly venerable mountain. The 10 divine suns emitted destructive light, competing with the 7 blood suns for glory. The spectacle of 10 divine suns floating in the sky, which had surpassed the ancient times, appeared above the heavenly venerable mountain again. Many supreme venerables were shocked. They held their breaths and stared at the scene in front of them with their mouths agape. Even Su Fang and Shu Wanjin were shocked. Su Fang transmitted his voice to Shu Wanjin. This is the most powerful power of the Origin Sacred Mirror? It's extraordinary. It's even more extraordinary than the Xian Bao. I didn't expect the power of the Origin Sacred Mirror to be far beyond my imagination. Shu Wanjin said, when our yang meridians and yin meridians reach the number of 9, and when the 9 yang meridians and 9 yin meridians reach the greater success stage, we'll be able to activate the ancient mirror to this state. It won't be like now, where the power of the heavenly venerable can only be unsealed once. Su Fang was shocked and full of anticipation. I'm looking forward to this day. Not only on the heavenly venerable mountain, everyone in the world could see the 10 divine suns in the sky, competing with the evil suns for glory. Countless living beings in the world could feel the majestic life force contained in the divine suns, and all of them radiated with astonishing life force. Many cultivators who couldn't break through due to the changes in the world started to spew out tribulation energy and burn tribulation fire under the radiance of the divine suns. What's happening? Weren't the 9 new divine suns shot down by Dai? Why are they appearing again now? Could it be that the supreme evil god has fallen? Those evil beings, including the demon race who had retreated to the dark world and the experts of the Tao Defiance Alliance, all trembled under the supreme radiance of the 10 divine suns, as if doomsday had arrived. At the heavenly venerable mountain, the battle between the divine suns and the blood suns continued. Sizzle! Sizzle! Under the radiance of the divine suns, the blood suns released a halo of light that was condensed by the blood suns, rapidly burned and evaporated. The blood suns' evil power was also extremely shocking, and it kept melting the power of the divine suns. Whoosh! An extremely yin and extremely cold aura erupted from the Origin's sacred mirror again. It was like a surging river of the underworld, and it instantly swept through space and time. The extremely yin aura and the divine sun aura merged, forming a fusion of yin and yang. It transformed the power, melting the blood-colored halo that enveloped the heavenly venerable mountain, path sea, and path river layer by layer until it finally collapsed and turned into nothingness. The 7 blood suns in the sky above the heavenly venerable mountain were also suppressed and dimmed. They kept shrinking until they were only a third of their original size, but they still continued to shrink. Suddenly, a huge phantom of a strange bird suddenly appeared from one of the divine suns, causing the divine sun to be instantly covered in a layer of shadow and its radiance to be covered. This divine sun was the one that hung in the sky, and the phantom of the strange bird was the golden crow that had escaped into the divine sun. Who would have thought that the golden crow would actually act at this critical moment and cover the radiance of the divine sun? The divine power released by the 10 divine suns instantly disappeared, and its divine power was weakened by more than half. The 9 divine suns formed by the origin sacred mirror's power also quickly dimmed. The 7 blood suns that had been suppressed to the extreme quickly recovered, but they clearly looked like they had been greatly damaged. They were only half of their original size, and their deathly aura was also weakened by more than half. Damned golden crow, I, Su Fang, swear that one day I will definitely burn your bones to ashes and refine your soul for eternity. Chapter 2579. The Golden Crow obviously knew that if Su Fang successfully entered the celestial worthy mountain, he would be able to find the source of the changes in the world and resolve the catastrophe. The awakening of the celestial worthy will, or even the appearance of the celestial worthy master, would be tantamount to doomsday for him. At this time, the Golden Crow was actually controlling the divine sun and restraining its power. Otherwise, even if it couldn't destroy the 7 blood suns, it would still be able to severely injure them. How could Su Fang not be angry when the Golden Crow was so deranged? However, no matter how angry he was, there was nothing he could do. Su Fang and Shu Wanjun had to enter the celestial worthy mountain before the power of the origin sacred mirror disappeared. Otherwise, all their previous efforts would be in vain. Su Fang and Shu Wanjun flew towards the celestial worthy mountain. The supreme imperial people, Di Hao, suddenly cupped his fists and bowed to Su Fang, shouting loudly, "The survival of the world is in your hands. I thank you on behalf of the imperial people." Immediately after, Xiao Wanning also cupped his fists and bowed. Entering the celestial worthy mountain this time is dangerous and unpredictable. This emperor thanks the 2 of you for risking your lives. The other emperor masters, regardless of their thoughts towards Su Fang, also cupped their fists and bowed one after another. I, Su Fang, will enter the celestial worthy mountain not for a single person, nor for a single force, but for the people of the world. I hope that everyone will also think of the common people and stop scheming and fighting for power, so that we can resolve the catastrophe together. Su Fang made a clanging sound, and then went straight to the celestial worthy mountain with Shu Wanjun. A kind of unwavering momentum suddenly arose spontaneously. Although Su Fang's words were true, it was tantamount to slapping many people in the face. A very obscure coldness flashed in the eyes of the supreme imperial people, and the expressions of some emperor masters were not very good. As soon as Su Fang and Shu Wanjun stepped onto the first step of the path to heaven, they immediately felt the scene in front of them change drastically. In the sky, there was a vast galaxy that released an astonishing pressure. Not only did it suppress the divine body, but even the primordial spirit was greatly suppressed. Although Su Fang and Shu Wanjun possessed the primordial origin sacred mirror, they still had to undergo the test to enter the exalted celestial mountain. The test on the path to the heavens was to withstand the terrifying pressure from the stars, climb to the mountain ridge, and enter the palace. Only then could one truly enter the exalted celestial mountain. The pressure on the first step is equivalent to the power of a galaxy. It's a test even to regular overgods. The pressure in the later part of the journey will definitely be even greater. No wonder Di Yuan failed back then. However, to senior sister and I, this little bit of pressure is nothing at all. Su Fang smiled confidently. Shu Wanjun's expression was also calm, without any pressure. Just as the 2 of them were about to take the second step, a golden rainbow suddenly broke through the void outside the celestial worthy mountain. It drew a golden arc in the air and landed on the first step. The golden light dissipated, revealing Goddess Luo's figure. Su Fangda was shocked. "Heavenly Lady, what are you doing here? Entering the exalted celestial mountain is my mission in this universe. If I miss this opportunity, I won't have another chance to enter the exalted celestial mountain in the future." "Naturally, I'm here," Goddess Luo said indifferently. Goddess Luo said indifferently. She looked at Su Fang as if he was a stranger. Su Fang said anxiously, The inside of the exalted celestial mountain is extremely dangerous. What are you going in for? I'm here. How can I let you take the risk? Goddess Luo said coldly, Su Fang, we have nothing to do with each other anymore. You are you, and I am me. Don't meddle in my affairs. Her cold tone made Su Fang's heart ache inexplicably. Shu Wanjin transmitted her voice to Su Fang. Su Fang, you don't seem to have good luck with women. It wasn't easy for you to find a Dao companion, but now you've been heartlessly abandoned. Only that Xuanxin won't leave you. Su Fang replied with a bitter smile, Senior sister, can you not join in the fun at this time? At this moment, Goddess Luo put away the piercing sun-golden rainbow and strode up the second step. Su Fang sighed helplessly. He knew he couldn't dissuade Goddess Luo, so he could only take one step at a time. Su Fang stepped onto the second step, and a majestic pressure suddenly descended. The galaxy in the sky suddenly split into two, and the pressure and impact on his divine body and primordial spirit also multiplied. However, this pressure was still nothing to Su Fang, Shu Wanjin, and Goddess Luo. The three of them strode towards the end of the path to heaven. It seems that Su Fang can easily enter the inside of the exalted celestial mountain. Many Emperor Realm Masters were watching the exalted celestial mountain from afar. Xiao Wanting stroked his beard and nodded. A middle-aged Emperor Realm Master with a strange purple face began to pour cold water on them. Back then, when Diyuan walked the path to heaven, he was also as fast as the wind at the beginning. In the end, he was only 2 steps away from success. It's too early to be happy now. Su Fang had risen by stepping on the heads of countless masters and had offended countless masters. In addition to Emperor Realm Masters like Sangqiu, Wei Dao, and the Zhu clan's emperors, there was also Xiao Wanting, who had a good relationship with Su Fang. Now that Su Fang had entered the exalted celestial mountain, the Emperor Realm Masters who hated Su Fang felt very complicated. On one hand, they were worried that Su Fang would fail and fall into eternal damnation, but on the other hand, they were hoping that Su Fang would fail and die in the exalted celestial mountain. The purple-faced middle-aged Emperor Realm Master who poured cold water on them just now was also from the ancient god world's Ji clan. Although they didn't have any direct conflict with Su Fang, the Ji clan and the Qi people had been connected by marriage since ancient times and had a deep relationship. At this time, the Ji clan's Emperor Realm Master didn't like Su Fang, so it was normal for him to mock him. Who knew on the path to heaven 3 figures were almost side by side and didn't stop along the way. In less than 2 hours, they had climbed the 99th step and arrived at the ridge of the exalted celestial mountain. All the Emperor Realm Masters breathed a long sigh of relief. Only Dao Emperor laughed loudly. Extraordinary, truly extraordinary. Not only Su Fang, but those 2 girls are also extraordinary. They managed to pass through the path to heaven so easily. The purple-faced middle-aged man snorted coldly. They have only just entered the exalted celestial mountain. The real danger has only just begun. Even before the world changed, very few geniuses who entered the exalted celestial mountain could pass the test, and many even lost their lives in the test. Now that the world has changed one after another, we don't know what has happened inside the exalted celestial mountain. Su Fang and the other 2 have entered, so I'm afraid that things are not looking good for them. As soon as he finished speaking, a bolt of lightning flashed in front of him and then exploded, sending him flying. Although he wasn't injured, his robe, which was comparable to a divine tool of creation, had holes in it. Black smoke was rising from it, making him look battered and exhausted. The Ji clan Emperor Realm Master was shocked and angry. Emperor Xiao, why did you attack this emperor? Xiao Wanting said coldly, you look like you can't wait for Su Fang to die in the exalted celestial mountain, and then you'll be happy when the myriad worlds are destroyed. This emperor can't help but suspect that you have gone against the Tao and become a spy of the Tao-defiant alliance. Do you want this emperor to take you to the punishment hall and interrogate you carefully? The Ji clan emperor was speechless. Su Fang, Shu Wanjin, and goddess Luo stepped onto the 99th step almost at the same time and arrived at the square in front of the palace on the ridge. Su Fang and Shu Wanjin looked calm, but goddess Luo's aura was a little chaotic. Her strength was obviously inferior to the other two. Whoosh! The origin divine mirror flew from the sky and split into two. Su Fang and Shu Wanjin put it away. The 9 divine suns above the exalted celestial mountain began to dissipate rapidly, and the exalted celestial mountain also began to turn into nothingness. The 3 of them quickly entered the palace. Rumble! Heaven and earth shook. The exalted celestial mountain, the path sea, and the path river below disappeared into nothingness. The blood sun and divine suns in the sky also disappeared. The emperors didn't leave. They saw Di Hao take out an ancient bronze mirror, which exuded an ancient and vicissitude aura. It was a divine tool of creation. The sky observation mirror? The emperors recognized the magic treasure in Di Hao's hand. As it turned out, this divine creation artifact called the Sky Observation Mirror was a supreme treasure of the monarch clan. Its ability was extremely strange. After it was activated, not only could it shackle powerful enemies, it could also borrow the power of the Sky Observation Mirror to see every corner of the universe. Moreover, it could even capture the aura of destiny. Di Hao activated the Sky Observation Mirror. 7 colored lights surged on the surface of the mirror. After a while, it turned into a clear image. In the image, there was a surging river in the middle. The river seemed to be endless, and the river water was white. White fog floated on the surface of the river, and there was a strong aura of death and hostility. Above the river, a bright full moon hung high, emitting cold and bright moonlight that enveloped the entire spacetime. On one side of the river, Su Fang, Shu Wanjin, and goddess Luo stood in the air. The Sky Observation Mirror can see through the barrier of the exalted celestial mountain and see what's inside. The Emperor Realm Masters cried out in alarm. Di Hao nodded and said, "The Sky Observation Mirror uses Su Fang's destiny aura as its source. That's why it can see through the barrier of the exalted celestial mountain and see what's around Su Fang. If Su Fang hadn't entered the exalted celestial mountain, she wouldn't have been able to see anything inside." Xiao Wanting asked, "Is this space-time a test for the geniuses who enter the exalted celestial mountain?" "That's right. According to the ancient records of my race, the exalted celestial mountain used to select geniuses who had to go through many tests and cross many space-time rivers. In the space-time Su Fang and the others are in, the river is also a path river that contains one of the Heavenly Way's myriad laws, the moon erosion power. With Su Fang's strength, it shouldn't be difficult for them to cross the path river and pass the test. However, the path river has been tainted by the hostility of death, so I'm afraid there will be some changes." The supreme existence of the imperial people said slowly, with a solemn look in his eyes. Many emperors were looking forward to seeing what would happen. There were also emperors who secretly transmitted the scene in the Sky Observation Mirror to Yuan Tiangong. Then, the Yuan Tiangong powerhouses used their divine powers or magic treasures to spread the scene across the myriad world. QL11 At this moment, the fate of the myriad worlds was at stake, so Di Hao didn't stop anything. In the Yuan Tiangong, the Hunyuan Heaven Realm, and the other God realms, Su Fang's every move in the exalted celestial mountain was clearly displayed on a huge light screen by the powerhouses using their divine powers. Su Fang has created countless miracles. In the War of the Two Realms, he was able to turn the tide and reverse the situation with his own strength. This time will be no exception. Su Fang, this time it's all up to you. As long as the Heavenly Way exists, Su Fang will definitely succeed. Chapter 2580. Su Fang looked at the Dao River in front of him and nodded. "It seems that the information Dixuan gave me about the inside of the celestial worthy mountain is still useful. The imperial people were the representatives of the celestial worthy mountain in the myriad of worlds. Naturally, they knew many secrets that outsiders did not know. The space-time Su Fang was in was also described in the information Dixuan gave him. Every era, the celestial worthy mountain would select geniuses from the myriad of worlds. These geniuses who were selected had to go through many tests. The tests they had to go through were the Tao rivers. The celestial worthy mountain was the source of the heavenly Tao. There were thousands of great Taos and countless Tao rivers. The great Taos were divided into primary and secondary streams. Naturally, the Tao rivers were also divided into main streams and tributaries. The Tao rivers that were used to test geniuses contained relatively low-level tributaries of the great Tao. They were just right for those geniuses. At the same time, for those geniuses who entered the celestial worthy mountain, crossing the space-time of the Tao rivers was not only a test, but also a good fortune. The Tao rivers contained the supreme true meaning of the great Tao. After crossing the Tao rivers, one would be tempered. After passing the test, one would be cleansed by the Tao rivers and receive the true meaning of the great Tao. Thus, one's strength would rapidly increase. It's not difficult to pass these tests. Those so-called good fortunes are also not of much use to me. My goal is to find the reason for the changes in the heavens and earth. Where do I start? Do I have to cross all the Tao rivers and find the source of the thousands of great Taos? Su Fang frowned and was at his wits' end. Buzz, buzz. While he was thinking, the Tao runes of the life-shrinking technique in the depths of his mind suddenly flashed. There was an ethereal voice that came from the deepest part of the space-time. That mysterious voice seemed to be summoning Su Fang, causing Su Fang's fate to resonate with it. He could not help but have a strong desire to go to the deepest part of the space-time. If it were not for the power of the life-shrinking technique protecting Su Fang's primordial spirit and consciousness, Su Fang would have lost himself and directly went there without caring about anything else. Qi. The mysterious Taoist scriptures of the life-shortening technique were burning in his divine aperture, burning away the power that was controlling his primordial spirit and Taoist heart brought by that mysterious voice. Finally, Su Fang returned to normal. Just as Su Fang was affected by the illusory summoning sound, Xu Wanjun was similarly summoned. Xu Wanjun also cultivated the Tianji life-shrinking technique, and it was even more profound than Su Fang's. Naturally, she wouldn't be controlled by the voice that controlled her Tao heart and will. However, Goddess Luo was not summoned by the voice. She looked normal. Who is it? Who dares to summon me and my senior sister? Su Fang used his perfect transcendent vision and the heavenly secret life-shrinking technique to project his sensing power in an attempt to find the source of the summoning sound. However, this was the interior of the exalted celestial mountain, so how astonishing were the shackles! Even with Su Fang's astounding consummate ability that transcended the heavens and earth, coupled with the heavenly secret life-shrinking technique, it was still difficult for his sensing power to penetrate the layers of shackles and obstruct the space-time barrier. Xu Wanjun said in a low voice, "There is no need to sense it. Just pass through the Tao River and enter the source of the great Tao. Perhaps there, we will be able to find the truth of the anomaly." Su Fang nodded and said, "Senior sister is right. That summoning sound is also coming from there. The one who is summoning us is either the heavenly venerate's will or that evil god has descended. No matter who it is, as long as we can find one of them, we will be able to find the truth of the anomaly." That mysterious summoning sound was trying to control the two of them. It was obvious that it was up to no good. The source of the voice was definitely the most dangerous place in the exalted celestial mountain. Su Fang and Xu Wanjun naturally knew this. However, they were already prepared to enter the exalted celestial mountain. Why would they be afraid of danger? Let's go. Su Fang used the power of the Yin-Yang world to form a protective divine aura and flew across the sky. Xu Wanjun followed closely behind. It was unknown what Goddess Luo's objective was in entering the exalted celestial mountain. She also followed closely behind Su Fang and Shu Wanjin. She didn't act alone. Swoosh! Just as Su Fang, Shu Wanjin, and Goddess Luo stepped onto the Dao River, the full moon above the Dao River suddenly lit up. The moonlight it emitted also became much brighter and purer. The ice-cold power of the heavenly Tao formed an astonishing shackle that slowed down the trio's speed. Furthermore, the moonlight constantly suppressed the protective divine aura of the trio, trying to freeze them to death. Immediately following that, the full moon suddenly dimmed. It was as if an invisible force was constantly nibbling away at it. A lunar eclipse phenomenon appeared. The lunar eclipse phenomenon released a heavenly Tao divine aura that could make all things in the world become incomplete and wither. It instantly enveloped the entire spacetime. Su Fang felt his protective divine aura constantly being eroded. The vitality, blood, essence, spirit, and energy in his body were also flowing out uncontrollably. It's extremely similar to the G people's lunar eclipse technique. However, it's tens of thousands of times stronger. Furthermore, the heavenly Tao power also contains an astonishing tribulation power and an evil power that can devour vitality. This should be due to the influence of the evil god's descent. According to the jade slip that Dixuan gave me, before the full moon is completely devoured, we must pass through the Tao River spacetime. Otherwise, we will be directly sent out of the exalted celestial mountain. This also means that we have failed to enter the exalted celestial mountain this time. Some information appeared in Su Fang's mind. He immediately unleashed his divine aura and unleashed his cultivation to increase his speed. Shu Wanjin and Goddess Luo followed closely behind Su Fang. In the beginning, Goddess Luo could still keep up. However, after about 2 hours, she gradually lost her strength. Shu Wanjin raised her eyebrows and transmitted her essence spirit voice to Su Fang. "You stupid brat! No wonder you were heartlessly abandoned by that woman. Senior sister is also proficient in this? Senior sister is also a woman. In front of women, you must be bold, careful, and shameless." Shameless! Su Fang smiled bitterly and helplessly. He could only return and unleash the divine aura of the yin-yang world to envelop Goddess Luo. Goddess Luo's pressure was instantly reduced by half by Su Fang. She became much more relaxed. However, she still looked cold and ungrateful. She said, "You don't have to do this. I won't thank you for anything." Su Fang smiled shamelessly. The Tao River looked boundless. However, as the three of them continued to fly, the other side of the Tao River appeared in the range of Su Fang's great perfection realm vision. "It's useless to stay here any longer. Let's leave quickly." Looking up at the waning moon that was rapidly being devoured, Su Fang unleashed his strength and increased his speed. He broke through the shackles. His speed was so fast that it was as if he was in the natural world. He didn't seem to be shackled much. When they reached the other side of the Tao River, the full moon in the sky turned into a waning moon. Just like that, the Tao River, which was considered a severe test for those geniuses in the past, was crossed by Su Fang and the other two like they were taking a stroll in the park. Bright moonlight, filled with an auspicious aura, descended from the void and enveloped the three of them. "Don't defend. This is the opportunity obtained from passing the test," Su Fang reminded Shu Wanjin and Goddess Luo. He retracted his protective divine aura and allowed the auspicious aura to seep into his divine body, cleansing his blood, meridians, and flesh. At the same time, his primordial spirit also seemed to be baptized. He also gained some understanding of the great Tao. However, these opportunities were not of much use to Su Fang. It was better than nothing. Next, Su Fang, Goddess Luo, and Shu Wanjin endured many tests and crossed the Tao River. QL11 The great Taos contained in the Tao River were different, so the contents of the tests were also different. However, there was one thing in common. These tributaries of the Tao River did not pose much of an obstacle to Su Fang and the other two. They passed through them easily. Outside the celestial worthy mountain, the venerable sovereigns were shocked when they saw them pass through the tests so easily. Could it be that there was no danger inside the celestial worthy mountain? This was completely different from what they had imagined. The venerable sovereign from the Ji clan said sourly, "If that's the case, Diyuan could have easily crossed the Tao River if he had passed the test of the path to heaven. He might have already found the truth of the anomaly and resolved the crisis." Many other venerable sovereigns had the same idea. The supreme existence of the imperial people snorted coldly, "It's not that the test is not difficult enough, nor is it not dangerous enough. It's just that the three of them are too strong. With Diyuan's strength at that time, he would have either been kicked out of the celestial worthy mountain or died." The venerable sovereigns fell silent. About 10 years later, Su Fang, Goddess Luo, and Shu Wanjin encountered a real challenge. Su Fang headed towards the depths of the summoning sound. He stepped into a layer of divine light and his body seemed to have lost its center of gravity. After a few breaths of weightlessness, a vast and boundless world of thunder appeared in front of him. The entire space-time was filled with the terrifying power of the heavenly way of thunder. It was not an ordinary power of thunder, but the divine thunder of the deity's tribulation. The astonishing power of thunder gathered together and the thunder rumbled. It was as if the heavenly way was angry. Lightning surged and the power of thunder condensed into matter. It rippled like water and formed a vast pool of thunder. The Great Tao of Thunder is one of the most important Great Taos of the heavenly way. It seems that we have walked out of the range of the tributary Tao River and entered the main stream of the Tao River. Su Fang's spirit was immediately lifted. Shu Wanjin frowned and said, "This pool of thunder is not to be underestimated. Don't be careless." Su Fang nodded and said, "I understand. You all have to be careful too. I'll be in front. Follow me closely. Goddess, I may not have time to protect you later. You have to be careful." Goddess Luo said coldly, "I have the ability to protect myself. You don't have to worry about me." Su Fang smiled nonchalantly. Shu Wanjin had previously taught him to be thick-skinned in front of women. Su Fang clearly understood the essence of this. The power of the yin-yang world surged out of Su Fang's divine body. It turned into a 100-foot wide world that enveloped the three of them. Then, Su Fang carefully moved toward the pool of thunder. Rumble! Thunder flashed out of the pool of thunder and bombarded Su Fang's world defense. Su Fang's world kept trembling. It kept shattering and then quickly reformed. Su Fang, Shu Wanjin, and Goddess Luo were enveloped by lightning along with their world. It was a shocking sight. After advancing 1/3 of the pool of thunder, Su Fang had to maintain his world defense at all times. He had to withstand the bombardment of countless thunder and lightning. Naturally, his energy consumption was astonishing. He sucked a lotus gem into the Heaven and Earth Tao Palace, allowing the World Tree and Yang Meridian to absorb energy from beyond the heavens and quickly recover the power of the yin-yang world. When they were halfway there, boom! Golden lightning surged from the pool of thunder in front of them. The terrifying aura of tribulation lightning swept over, causing large areas of Su Fang's world to shatter. This was only the beginning. Whoosh! The pool water in the pool of thunder rippled. A 100-foot tall golden giant jumped out of the pool. Not only was this golden giant's size shocking, but golden lightning kept flowing around his body. Thunder surged in his eyes, exuding a terrifying aura of heaven's punishment. He held a huge black axe in his hand and looked majestic. "Be careful. This is the heaven's punishment war god formed by the great Tao of lightning. It will only appear when a true god becomes a supreme god." Chapter 2581. A divine punishment war god has appeared? The previous geniuses who entered the celestial worthy mountain didn't have this lightning pool as a test. Obviously, Su Fang has entered the mainstream of the Path River, which is far beyond the scope of the test for those geniuses. Su Fang is in danger now. Danger? Not really. Su Fang can probably even kill a peerless master at the peak of the Emperor realm, let alone these divine punishment war gods, who are just some ordinary Emperor realm incarnations of the heavenly way. But Su Fang didn't enter the celestial worthy mountain to train, but to find the truth of the changes in the world. If he consumes too much here, I'm afraid he won't be able to continue. Outside the celestial worthy mountain, the Emperor Realm Masters saw the divine punishment war god in the lightning pool through the sky observation mirror. Their eyes were filled with fear. These Emperor Realm Masters had been tested by the divine punishment war god when they were promoted to the Supreme Emperor Realm and were baptized by the heavenly way's chaotic divine tribulation. Naturally, they knew how terrifying the divine punishment war god was. That was not an ordinary heavenly tribulation, but the manifestation of the supreme heavenly way's thunder punishment. Most peak god realm masters died when they tried to break through to the supreme emperor realm because of the divine punishment war god. Moreover, the divine punishment war god that Su Fang was facing now was different. If it was in the natural world, Su Fang could easily kill a divine punishment war god with his strength to kill a celestial master. However, he was deep in the lightning pool, which was the source of the heavenly way's thunder power. The divine punishment war god was far more powerful than in the natural world, and no one knew how many divine punishment war gods would appear. Everyone's hearts were in their mouths. Of course, most people were not worried about Su Fang, but the consequences of his death. Once he died in the lightning pool, it would mean that the myriad worlds had lost all hope. Those in the Yuan Tiangong and the divine realms outside the Yuan Tiangong were shocked to see the scene in the lightning pool through various magical powers and magic treasures. Immediately, they began to worry about Su Fang. In the Saint Hall, in the main hall, Su Yaotian, Xuanxin, and the others stared intently at a huge light screen floating in the center of the hall. The scene in the lightning pool inside the celestial worthy mountain was constantly changing on the light screen. It turned out that Emperor Sangqiu had used a supreme divine ability to transmit the scene in the Saint Hall. Seeing the terrifying heavenly punishment war god appear, that shocking heavenly punishments divine might seem to be able to pass through the barrier of light, causing everyone to tremble. At the same time, they began to worry for Su Fang. How? If. Only Su Yaotian, Xuanxin, and a few of Su Fang's closest relatives knew about the dragon Daozu's identity. Hearing Ancestral Gregon's words, Xuanxin immediately felt relieved. What a joke! Ancestral Gregon was a terrifying existence. His eyesight was naturally extraordinary. If he said that Su Fang was fine, then he was definitely fine. Ancestral Gregon glanced at Xuanxin and said, Su Fang brought 2 women into the celestial worthy mountain. Their relationship seems to be extraordinary. Aren't you worried? Xuanxin smiled sweetly. Senior, you must be joking. Su Fang is a peerless genius in the myriad worlds. It's normal for him to have a few women by his side. There are people taking care of Su Fang for me, and I have to thank them. What's there to be worried about? Ancestral Gregon rolled his eyes. That brat is nothing good. Why are you all so protective of him? How boring! In the thunder pool, the war god of divine punishment let out a thunderous roar and strode out. He raised the battle-axe in his hand, and a golden thunderbolt rolled up like the Milky Way. With the power of divine punishment that could destroy the world, he ruthlessly chopped down on Su Fang's world. The thunder energy of the entire thunder pool was also activated, sweeping toward Su Fang. Thunder roared and lightning flashed. The power of the attack was incomparably shocking. Chi. From Su Fang's world, a light shadow soared into the sky and turned into a towering tree. Its thick branches and dense leaves released divine power, making Su Fang's world even more stable. Break! The attack of the war god of divine punishment ruthlessly chopped down on Su Fang's world, creating a huge crack in the world's defense. The tree of divine punishment was also cut down. However, the world was still as stable as before after a violent tremor. You're just an ordinary war god of divine punishment. You're not allowed to be arrogant in front of Su Fang. Su Fang shouted domineeringly. He stepped out of the world, stepped into the air, and rushed toward the war god of divine punishment. As he ran, golden electric currents flashed on his body, and his divine body grew crazily. After 3 steps, he turned into a golden giant that was hundreds of feet tall. The giant that Su Fang transformed into after using the giant transformation Vajra looked very similar to the war god of divine punishment, but the divine power that erupted from it was completely different. Boom! 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 Su Fang used the mighty palm to fight with the war god of divine punishment. The impact of the momentum set off caused the entire thunder pool to roll up monstrous thunderbolt. The space where the thunder pool was located shook and shattered. The collision was really amazing. Only a powerful martial emperor like Xiao Wanting could cause such a scene in a life-and-death battle. After more than a dozen collisions, the body of the war god of divine punishment, which was formed by the great way of thunder, shattered and turned into remnant thunderbolts that splashed in all directions. Su Fang also quickly returned to normal from the giant transformation state. However, he did not return to the world created by the power of the yin-yang world. Instead, he used his divine power to sweep up the golden thunderbolts formed after the war god of divine punishment was shattered and flew toward him. Su Fang opened up his divine power and divine body defense, and reached out to grab the golden thunderbolts. Crack! As soon as the golden thunderbolts landed in his hand, they immediately exploded with astonishing lightning power, blasting Su Fang's right hand into a bloody mess. The lightning power quickly spread to other parts of his body, seeping into his flesh and blood. Su Fang was enveloped by the golden thunderbolts, and it was a shocking sight. What is Su Fang doing? Goddess Lua was shocked, and her eyes were filled with worry. Don't worry. Su Fang is using the power of the Thunder Calamity to refine his divine body. He has a perfect physical body, so the remnant Thunder Calamity can't hurt him at all, Shu Wanjin explained. Then she stared at Goddess Luo. Since you are so worried about him, why did you suddenly leave him? Goddess Luo's eyes dimmed, but she didn't say anything. Although the heavenly punishment war god had been killed, the divine power of the heavenly punishment was still extremely shocking. In an instant it enveloped Su Fang. This scene was witnessed by countless people through various means, and it instantly caused a commotion. Is Su Fang crazy? He actually used his physical body to withstand the power of the heavenly punishment lightning calamity. He is actually using the power of the thunder calamity to refine his physical body. Crazy, this is too crazy. Su Fang entered the celestial worthy mountain with a heavy responsibility on his shoulders. Now, he is acting like a child's play, trying to please the crowd. Su Fang's actions caused some people to be shocked, some people to be worried, and some people to mock and ridicule him. In fact, Su Fang attracted the power of the heavenly punishment lightning calamity not just to refine his divine body. His main goal was to use the power of the heavenly punishment lightning calamity to attack the world fragment that came from beyond the heavens. The world fragment obtained from the Palace of Advent was simply too sturdy. It wasn't something that the gods of this universe could fuse with. Su Fang had been in seclusion in the Sanctum of Sages for tens of thousands of years. He had tried countless times to fuse with it, but that cauldron-like world fragment didn't budge at all. However, Su Fang had never given up. This time, he could use the power of the heavenly punishment lightning calamity to attack the world fragment. The power of the heavenly punishment lightning calamity was the most violent and ferocious power in this universe. If the power of the heavenly punishment lightning calamity couldn't even shake the world fragment, Su Fang really didn't know what power in this universe could shake it. The power of the heavenly punishment lightning calamity was extremely violent and violent. It tore apart Su Fang's bones, meridians, and surged into his body. Su Fang drove the power of yin and yang to control and fuse with the power of the heavenly punishment lightning calamity. After the power of the heavenly punishment lightning calamity was infused with his blood essence, energy, and aura, he guided it into the palace of heaven and earth to strike the world fragment. The cauldron-like world fragment finally began to tremble. A buzzing sound came from the cauldron, and a green Xian Guang emerged from the cauldron, absorbing a small portion of the power of the heavenly punishment lightning calamity. It really works. This sight left Su Fang overjoyed. The fact that the world fragment had absorbed the power of the heavenly punishment lightning calamity infused with Su Fang's aura meant that it had fused with Su Fang's blood essence and energy. In other words, it had indirectly fused with the world fragment. Looking at his body from the inside out, it was clear that the damage caused by the heavenly punishment lightning calamity wasn't light. However, with Su Fang's recovery ability, it wasn't a problem at all. Su Fang wasn't too satisfied with the results this time. The power of the heavenly punishment lightning calamity is too weak. At this rate, it won't be able to fuse with the world fragment in a short time. It needs a stronger and fiercer heavenly punishment lightning calamity. Roar. A deafening roar came from the thunder pool. Immediately after, the thunder pool separated again, and a purple-gold divine dragon rose from the thunder pool. It turned out to be a thunder dragon manifested from the great way of thunder. It was much more terrifying than the heavenly punishment war god that had appeared before. Good, you've come at the right time. Su Fang wasn't surprised. Instead, he was overjoyed. Burning with fighting spirit, he displayed all kinds of divine powers and engaged in an earth-shattering battle with the thunder dragon. The strength that Su Fang displayed at this time was far beyond that of an ordinary sovereign. Even a powerful sovereign like Shao Wanting couldn't compare with him. Seeing this scene, all the sovereign masters outside the celestial worthy mountain were shocked. They felt that this scene was too unreal. Fear and shock flashed in the eyes of the supreme imperial people. Su Fang's position in his heart quickly rose to the level where he was on an equal footing with him. This filled his heart with fear, and some of his thoughts of targeting Su Fang began to waver. What they didn't know was that the strength that Su Fang displayed at this time was far from his strongest strength. The battle between Su Fang and the Thunder Dragon lasted for more than 6 hours. It stirred up the entire thunder pool, and chaotic and violent thunder calamity energy was everywhere. Su Fang shattered the Thunder Dragon again and again, and the Thunder Dragon reconstructed itself with the help of the Thunder Pool's power. Chapter 2582. Su Fang's actions shocked Xu Wanjin. Su Fang, be careful. Senior sister, I know what I'm doing. Su Fang nodded and grabbed the Lightning Dragon. The Lightning Dragon was the manifestation of the heavenly punishment, not a real life form. As soon as Su Fang's body came into contact with the Lightning Dragon, it immediately turned into a shocking lightning bolt that enveloped Su Fang. The power of the lightning tribulation seeped into Su Fang's body and wreaked havoc, destroying Su Fang's flesh, blood, meridians, and bones. Fortunately, Su Fang had a perfected physique and the lightning punishment true body. Otherwise, his body would have been destroyed by the violent lightning energy before he could use the power of the yin-yang world to fuse with the lightning tribulation in his defenseless state. The lightning tribulation's power was fused with Su Fang's blood and energy, and he used all his strength to guide it into the heaven and earth Tao Palace to attack the world fragment. Su Fang's crazy actions were no different from suicide in the eyes of the countless people who saw this scene. It immediately caused a wave of exclamations. However, Su Fang didn't hear anything. He focused all his energy on attacking the world fragment. Boom! 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 The green cauldron trembled even more violently under the shocking power of the lightning tribulation. The lightning tribulation's power that had fused with Su Fang's blood and yin-yang world slowly seeped into the cauldron, or rather, it was absorbed by the cauldron. Moreover, it was several times more powerful than the remnant lightning tribulation's power from killing the heavenly punishment war god. A portion of the tribulation lightning's power was fused with Su Fang's body, and some of it was absorbed by the world tree and yang meridian by Su Fang using the 9 yang 9 transformations. This caused the yin-yang world's power and yang power to increase significantly, and the world tree and yang meridian became vaster. However, Su Fang also paid a heavy price for this. His skin was covered in burns and destructive scars from the lightning tribulation's power. His insides were also in a mess. Fortunately, the lightning tribulation's power had been fused before it was guided into the Heaven and Earth Tao Palace. Otherwise, even the Heaven and Earth Tao Palace would have been shaken. Su Fang wiped the bloody sweat from his face and smiled. After this attack, the world fragment had loosened quite a bit. Furthermore, due to the fusion of his blood energy and energy, there was a faint feeling of a bloodline connection between him and the world fragment. Although there was still a long way to go before the fusion was complete, it was still a big step forward. Su Fang's smile was seen by countless people. Everyone was shocked by his craziness. At this moment, many people realized that Su Fang's current achievements, his heaven-defying rise like a blazing sun, was not only due to talent, luck, cultivation methods, and this kind of madness in cultivation. At this moment, Su Fang looked extremely wretched and miserable. However, in the eyes of many women, he was filled with the charm of a man. Countless women stared at Su Fang through their magical abilities or magical treasures, going crazy for him. Su Fang consumed a drop of ancestral dragon essence blood to circulate the azure falling blood dome in his body, rapidly healing the injuries on his divine body. In the short span of a dozen breaths, his skin that had been damaged by the lightning tribulation began to fall off, revealing tough and elastic new skin. His divine body had also recovered by more than half. The ancestral dragon's blood contained astonishing vitality. In addition to Su Fang's recovery ability, it was normal for Su Fang to recover so quickly. However, this scene caused another wave of shock and uproar in the eyes of the emperors outside the exalted celestial mountain and countless cultivators in the myriad world. Next, Su Fang led Shu Wanjin and Holy Maiden Luo forward in the lightning pool. There were constantly Tian Fa war gods, lightning dragons, and other monsters manifested from the heavenly way. Su Fang found it difficult to deal with them alone. Shu Wanjin and Holy Maiden Luo also began to take action. After 10 years, the three of them finally made it out of the lightning pool. They were all exhausted. Fortunately, as soon as they walked out of the lightning pool, green lightning immediately descended and enveloped the three of them. These lightning bolts did not have the power of destruction. Instead, they had the other attribute of the lightning element, which was the ability to stimulate vitality. After being baptized by the green lightning bolts, the three of them regained their vitality. Moreover, their divine bodies had also transformed quite a bit. Although they had not reached the level of advancement, the effect was equivalent to cultivating in seclusion for more than 1,000,000 years. This was the benefit brought to them after going through hardship. Su Fang sensed the world fragment and found that he had fused almost 10% of it. It did not seem like much, but to be able to fuse the extremely sturdy world fragment to such an extent in such a short period of time was already extremely shocking. From the mouth of the huge green cauldron, the world origin force essence from beyond the heavens constantly poured out and was absorbed by the world tree and yang meridian. This meant that Su Fang was constantly in a state of cultivation. Not only was his strength constantly increasing, but there was also a qualitative change. The power of the world of yin and yang was further transforming into a high-level energy. When the world fragment was completely fused, it meant that Su Fang's cultivation in the inner world would leap to a whole new level that was difficult for cosmos gods in this world to reach. The three of them passed through a layer of divine light and arrived at a new spacetime. Just as Su Fang expected, they had entered a space formed by the main stream of the Tao River. In a gray spacetime, a vast and boundless land released astonishing gravitational shackles, making it extremely difficult for the three of them to walk, let alone fly. The boundless gravity forced them to constantly use their divine power to defend themselves. Otherwise, even with Su Fang's perfect fleshy body, he would be injured, let alone Shu Wanjin and Goddess Luo. It was not just the gravity released by the land. Hong hong hong. Huge meteorites constantly fell from the sky with a whistling sound. The smaller ones were only the size of a washbasin, while the larger ones were the size of stars. When they fell on the ground, they caused the earth to shake violently and crack. The impact of the impact was so strong that Su Fang and the other two could feel it even from 1,000 miles away. Furthermore, there were stone monsters constantly emerging from the ground, launching powerful attacks at the three of them. The three of them were like 3 ants, moving forward with difficulty. They not only had to resist the gravitational shackles, but they also had to divert a large portion of their energy to deal with the meteors and stone monsters. The road ahead was extremely long and difficult, but Su Fang, Shu Wanjin, and Goddess Luo's footsteps were extremely firm. After persevering for 300 years, there was still no end in sight. Left with no choice, Goddess Luo used the sun-piercing golden rainbow to fly with Su Fang and Shu Wanjin. In the internal space-time of the celestial worthy mountain, even a true transcendence expert could not transcend the shackles of heaven and earth. Furthermore, the sun-piercing golden rainbow was only a divine creation artifact. It was far from being able to instantly traverse through endless space like it did in nature. Furthermore, the consumption was astonishing. After persevering for more than 10 days, Goddess Luo had no choice but to stop and recover. In the end, Su Fang did not hesitate to expend the power of the yin-yang world to use an ability that transcended heaven and earth, enveloping Shu Wanjin and Goddess Luo. They broke free from the shackles of the gravitational shackles and barely managed to fly. Their speed reached the level of a celestial god, and they avoided all kinds of attacks from the sky and ground. Finally, they left the Earth Elemental Great Tao spacetime. While undergoing the cleansing of the Earth Elemental Heavenly Tao power and the empowerment of the Supreme Earth Elemental Great Tao, Shu Wanjin suddenly transmitted her essence spirit to Su Fang. Su Fang, can you tell that Goddess Luo is a little strange? Su Fang was startled and replied, Senior sister, why do you say that? Shu Wanjin snorted coldly. You were blinded by a woman, but I wasn't. Think carefully. From the moment she entered the celestial worthy mountain until now, what is strange about her? Su Fang immediately calmed down. Thinking about it carefully, there was indeed something unusual about Goddess Luo. Su Fang and Shu Wanjin had the primordial chaos sacred mirror, which was why they had the qualifications to enter the celestial worthy mountain. They had passed the test of the path to heaven to enter the celestial worthy mountain. Although Goddess Luo had the strength to pass the path to heaven, she did not have the primordial chaos sacred mirror. Logically speaking, she should be rejected by the celestial worthy mountain and should not be able to step onto the path to heaven. Even Su Fang and Shu Wanjin with the primordial chaos sacred mirror could not bring her into the celestial worthy mountain. She claimed that she entered the celestial worthy mountain on a mission. On one hand, she was unwilling to be close to Su Fang, as if they were strangers. On the other hand, she followed Su Fang and Shu Wanjin. No one could guess what her intentions were. Senior sister, don't worry. Goddess and I have gone through life and death together several times. She is distancing herself from me now because she has her own difficulties. After all, she came from beyond the heavens, so there is nothing to be surprised about. I hope so. Don't forget that when you were in the small world, you were betrayed by the woman you love. Shu Wanjin was talking about Xiao Mei, which directly hit Su Fang's sore spot. Su Fang said decisively, no matter what, Goddess is my woman, Su Fang. If I don't even believe my own woman, then who else in this world can? Besides, if I can understand Goddess's difficulties and help her complete her mission, so what if I am deceived again? Xu Wanjun did not say anything else. QL11 Then, the three of them entered the space-time of the great Tao of metal. The three of them flew through the space-time filled with sharp sword chi and saber light, killing countless metal monsters. After about 100 years, they passed through this space-time with bruises all over their bodies. Then, it was water, wood, and fire. Every space-time was very difficult and incomparably dangerous. The auras of the three of them were dispirited, and their bodies were filled with endless exhaustion. Although there were no injuries on the surface of their divine bodies, primordial spirits, and inner worlds had all suffered different degrees of damage and could not be recovered in a short period of time. However, their eyes were filled with determination, as well as a kind of determination and unyieldingness that would not give up until they achieved their goal. What they had experienced shocked the myriad world. At first, there were exclamations and cheers, but in the end, everyone fell into silence. Everyone's eyes were filled with respect. That was because everyone knew that the three of them had entered the celestial worthy mountain not to search for treasures, nor to obtain any fortune or inheritance, but for the survival of the myriad worlds. Even those people that hated Su Fang had completely shut their mouths, and they felt shock and admiration towards the tenacity and unyielding spirit he displayed. From entering the celestial worthy mountain to passing through the last layer of the fire elemental Tao river spacetime, Su Fang, Xu Wanjun, and goddess Luo used a total of more than 1,000 years. Although it was not a long time, it allowed their strength to improve greatly. After passing through an invisible barrier, a vast and boundless ocean appeared in front of Su Fang and the other two. Strange black and white seawater spiraled in space-time and surged mightily, forming a huge and boundless yin and yang vortex. It looked shockingly similar to Su Fang's Tao Palace of Heaven and Earth. In the seawater, there was an incomparably pure and majestic power of yin and yang. The monotonous black and white colors contained all the colors in the world. Tao Si. Chapter 2583. I don't know where in the sea of the path the call of fate comes from, and I don't know where to find the source of the changes in heaven and earth. There's also you. He traced the Tao river of the heavenly path and came to the sea of the path. I don't know where he is now. Looking at the vast sea of the path, Su Fang was once again at a loss. Su Fang displayed the yin and yang divine power, enveloping the three of them and floating above the sea of the path. Then, Su Fangda used his perfected divine power to sense the sea of the path. At the same time, he was also prepared to find some clues from the sea of the path. Little did he know, after sensing for a while, Su Fang was shocked to find that the yin and yang divine power emitted by the sea of the path contained a kind of ethereal and illusory fate, as well as a deep and vast divine power. The heavenly fate life shrinking technique and the heavenly evolution mystery could not exert their abilities here. The perfected divine power and the power of the primordial spirit were also distorted and shackled. This also meant that the ability that Su Fang relied on here was equivalent to being crippled by more than half. This discovery shocked Su Fang. What's going on? Xu Wanjun said in a deep voice. This is the sea of the path, the origin of heaven and earth and the universe. All aspects of abilities are naturally limited. It seems that it's not that easy to find the truth of the changes in heaven and earth. What they did not know was that as soon as they entered the sea of the path, outside the celestial worthy mountain, the sky observation mirror had completely lost its sense of Su Fang. Only the green Xianguang was left on the mirror. The venerable sovereigns outside the celestial worthy mountain, as well as the cultivators in the myriad worlds, could no longer see Su Fang and the other two, which immediately caused a panic. Everyone was worried about the fate of Su Fang and the other two, as well as the myriad worlds. Su Fang frowned. This should be the core area of the celestial worthy mountain. I don't know where to find the cause of the changes in heaven and earth. Shu Wanjun pondered for a while and said slowly, when we enter the celestial worthy mountain, we are going against the direction of the evolution of the heavenly Tao, going straight to the source. The tributaries of the heavenly Tao that we passed through before contained the myriad laws and phenomena of the heavenly Tao. The mainstream of the heavenly Tao after that was the foundation of the 6 heavenly Tao laws of metal, wood, water, fire, earth, and lightning. The Tao See here is the yin and yang of the heavenly Tao. Yin and yang are not the true source of the heavenly Tao, and the source of the changes in the world should be in an even deeper place. Su Fang raised his eyebrows. The heavenly Tao has evolved from chaos to yin and yang. Is there a chaotic region in the deepest part of the sea of the path? Shu Wanjun nodded and said, it should be so. Who would have thought that the inside of the exalted celestial mountain would be able to clearly and intuitively display the entire process of the heavenly Tao's evolution? As expected of the center of the universe. QL11 he pondered for a moment. Shu Wanjun suddenly asked, Su Fang, have you noticed what the interior of this exalted celestial mountain looks like? Like what? Su Fang really hadn't thought about it. He thought about it carefully. Su Fang's divine light changed instantly, and he said in disbelief, Magic power ocean. The space inside this exalted celestial mountain, could it be the exalted celestial's divine aperture? The exalted celestial mountain wasn't a real mountain, but a manifestation of the heavenly Tao. The heavenly Tao was also the exalted celestial of creation, which was also the universe of the universe. Su Fang cultivated the universe of the universe of the universe, and at this moment, the supreme heavenly Tao was no longer a secret to him. He merged his flesh, blood, primordial spirit, and the power of the world of yin and yang with the heaven and earth Tao palace, and could also form a complete universe of the universe of the universe. However, compared to the real universe of the universe of the universe, Su Fang's universe of the universe of the universe of the universe was not yet fully mature. After thinking about it carefully and verifying himself, it wasn't difficult for Su Fang to deduce a lot of shocking things. This universe of the universe of the universe of the exalted celestial's inner world, and his primordial spirit, divine body, and energy form the 3 realms. The exalted celestial mountain was the center of the universe 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 of the universe. If it wasn't his divine aperture, what was it? The Tao rivers and spacetime that they had passed through before were the periphery of the exalted celestial's magic power ocean. At this time, Su Fang and the other 2 were in the depths of the magic power ocean inside the divine aperture. The truth was definitely more complicated and mysterious than Su Fang's speculation, but it couldn't be wrong. Su Fang speculated and understood the core secret of the universe of the universe of the universe, and his heart was suddenly in turmoil. It was too incredible. The exalted celestial mountain was the exalted celestial's divine aperture, and the Tao rivers and the vast Tao sea were the exalted celestial's magic power ocean. It was really incredible. Now, Su Fang also understood that the origin sacred mirror was a token to enter the inner world of the exalted celestial's divine aperture. Shu Wanjun continued, Su Fang, think about it carefully. What else is in the depths of your magic power ocean? Su Fang's deep eyes flashed with a strange light, Sun God. In other words, in the deepest part of the Tao Sea, in the chaotic region, there is the Sun God of the Supreme Exalted Celestial. The changes of the world are most likely due to the Exalted Celestial's Sun God. That's right. We only need to find the Exalted Celestial's Sun God, and we will be able to find the source of the changes of the world. Perhaps, after we find the Exalted Celestial's Sun God, we might even be able to awaken the Exalted Celestial's will, completely stop the changes of the world, and resolve the calamity of the myriad of worlds. Shu Wanjun's eyes shone brightly, and her cold voice was filled with excitement, and even a little madness. Su Fang was shocked, but his heart was also filled with determination. Shu Wanjin glanced at Goddess Luo and asked coldly, "You also heard the conversation between Su Fang and me, and it concerns the greatest secret of the universe of this world. Why aren't you surprised at all? Or did you already know about this?" Goddess Luo said calmly, "The secrets of this world of the universe may be shocking, but I come from beyond the heavens, and these big secrets have nothing to do with me. Why should I be surprised?" Shu Wanjin didn't ask any more. Su Fang used his divine power to condense matter, and the three of them sat cross-legged on the matter. When they were crossing the Dao River, the three of them had not only consumed a lot of energy, but they had also recovered a lot after repeated marrow cleansing and head empowerment. However, there were still various hidden injuries in their bodies. Next, they were going to cross the Dao Sea and head to the deepest part of the Supreme Exalted Celestial's magic power ocean. How terrifying was the Exalted Celestial's magic power ocean! Moreover, they didn't know what had happened to the Exalted Celestial's sun god in the deepest part of the magic power ocean, and what kind of danger was waiting for them. Therefore, the three of them had to wait until they recovered to their peak state before heading to the depths of the Dao Sea. Su Fang took out the dragon's blood and gave it to Goddess Luo and Shu Wanjin. He planned to recover his life force and physical injuries first before recovering his divine essence as soon as possible. Goddess Luo took out 2 pills and gave them to Su Fang and Shu Wanjin. The pills were vermilion red and emitted a high-level energy aura and astonishing life force. Clearly, they didn't come from this world of the universe. Su Fang said in surprise. "This is," Goddess Luo said, "this is a pill that foster father brought from the Jiuxuan divine realm. It's called the Heaven Replenishing Essence Pill. Not only can it quickly recover, but it also has the effect of eradicating hidden injuries. Even in the Jiuxuan divine realm, the Heaven Replenishing Essence Pill is an extremely extraordinary pill. It's a supreme pill that any cultivator would scramble for." Sensing the aura contained in the Heaven Replenishing Essence Pill, Su Fang nodded and said, "It's indeed an extraordinary pill from beyond the heavens. This Heaven Replenishing Essence Pill is enough for us to recover more than half." Then, Su Fang swallowed it without hesitation. Shu Wanjin glanced at Goddess Luo with a trace of doubt in her eyes. Then, she swallowed the pill as well. Goddess Luo also swallowed an identical Heaven Replenishing Essence Pill. Then, she sat down cross-legged and cultivated to recover. Su Fang and Shu Wanjin used the 9 Yang 9 transformations and 9 Yang 9 transformations to absorb the Yin and Yang energy in the Dao Sea for dual cultivation. The Yin and Yang energy here had an effect that was beyond Su Fang and Shu Wanjin's imagination. It was as if the Dao Sea was specially prepared for the two of them. The fusion of pure Yang and pure Yin represented the supreme laws of Yin and Yang in the world. All things and even all spells were born from Yin and Yang. The Dao Sea was the source of Yin and Yang. The 9 Yang transformations and 9 Yin transformations that Su Fang and Shu Wanjin cultivated were a kind of supreme cultivation technique that blended and evolved with the Yin and Yang of the heavenly Dao. Cultivating in the Sea of the Dao naturally had amazing results that couldn't be achieved anywhere else. Fortunately, with the fusion of the 9 Yang true Qi and the cold Qi, the two forces of dual cultivation finally devoured the high-level power of the undying flower. Su Fang and Shu Wanjin sat down cross-legged and used the 9 Yang 9 transformations and 9 Yin 9 transformations, respectively, to absorb the power of the Dao Sea. The pure Yang energy in Su Fang's body circulated crazily, engulfing every muscle and cell. It absorbed Shu Wanjin's 9 Yin energy and reached a wonderful state of dual cultivation, making Su Fang's Yang energy purer and more majestic. In addition to the majestic medicinal power of the Heaven Replenishing Essence Pill, it formed a vast aura in Su Fang's body that surged crazily in his body. Su Fang also sensed that the world fragment was also absorbing the Yin and Yang energy. Although it was very weak, it meant that the world fragment had begun to merge with Su Fang. Suddenly, Su Fang's divine light changed instantly. It turned out that he had lost control of the 9-yang energy and the yin-yang energy. Even his primordial spirit was out of control. Su Fang tried to circulate the yin-yang energy, but he realized that all the energy in his body was out of control. Even his primordial spirit consciousness was gradually becoming numb. What was going on? Su Fang then realized that Shu Wanjin's current state was exactly the same as his. He stared at Goddess Luo in disbelief. "Goddess, what do you want to do?" Shu Wanjin stared at Goddess Luo coldly, her eyes as if they were frozen. The reason for this state was naturally because there was a problem with Goddess Luo's pill. Goddess Luo said calmly, "That's right. There's indeed a problem with my heaven-replenishing essence pill, but it's not a big problem. At most, it will make you lose your power for a period of time. Not only will it not cause you any harm, but it will also greatly benefit you." Why is that? Su Fang's heart sank into a cold abyss. It was not because he was afraid that Goddess Luo would attack him, but because he was deceived and betrayed by the person he trusted the most. It made his heart ache and turn cold. Chapter 2584. Su Fang's eyes were filled with despair and unwillingness. "Heavenly Maiden, I just want to know why you forgot the unforgettable life in the disillusionment execution mirror. Why did you forget about helping each other in the prison suppressing codex? Why did you abandon everything and treat me like this?" Heavenly Maiden Luo looked at Su Fang coldly as if she was looking at a stranger. "I naturally won't forget what you and I have experienced. But for my mission, all of this is nothing." Su Fang asked in a deep voice, "What is your so-called mission? One day you will know everything. You poisoned the elixir and made us lose all our strength. What are you trying to do?" "Don't worry, the replenishing vitality elixir I gave you is real. It's just that there's some special medicine in it that will make you temporarily lose your energy and control of your primordial spirit. My goal is only to stop you from going deeper into the Tao Sea. It won't cause any danger to you." "Did us entering the celestial worthy mountain affect your so-called mission?" "Yes. With your current strength, you won't be able to use your cultivation for 10,000 years. After 10,000 years, everything will return to normal. By then, the dust will have settled, and you will have left the celestial worthy mountain." Heavenly Maiden Luo's cold voice made Su Fang's heart even colder. "Su Fang, when we parted at the Advent Divine Palace, I told you to leave this universe quickly. But you didn't listen and wanted to come to the celestial worthy mountain. So I had no choice but to do this. Goodbye, Su Fang. We won't meet again in this life. I hope we can meet again in the next life." After saying that, Heavenly Maiden Luo activated the piercing sun-golden rainbow and flew towards the deepest part of the Tao Sea. Soon, she disappeared from Su Fang's sight. Su Fang fell into a long silence. After a long time, Shu Wanjin suddenly said, "Why? Do you feel pain after being deceived and betrayed by the person you trust the most? If you want to catch Heavenly Maiden Luo, I can catch her now." Su Fang looked at Shu Wanjin in surprise. "Senior sister, you weren't poisoned?" I've been wary of Goddess Luo for a long time. How could I swallow the pills she took out without any qualms?" Shu Wanjin opened her mouth and spat out a xian guang, which contained a medicinal pill. It was the replenishing vitality pill. Who would have thought that Shu Wanjin would actually seal the pill after swallowing it? Since the medicinal energy didn't spread out, naturally, she wouldn't be poisoned. Her earlier appearance was actually a disguise. Su Fang looked ashamed. "As expected of senior sister, you're so cautious." "I'm not as good as you." Shu Wanjin shook her head and said, "You trust that woman too much, which is why you let your guard down. Trusting your family too much is your strength, but it's also your weakness. If I can't even trust my own family, who else can I trust?" Su Fang smiled bitterly. Shu Wan was truly like this. Back then, when she was betrayed by her clan and her father, although she had already clarified everything, she still wouldn't believe anyone. Su Fang, do you need me to capture Goddess Luo and bring her back? There's no need. I trust her. This time, she poisoned the pills to prevent us from entering the deepest part of the Tao Sea. It's definitely not her intention. She has her own difficulties that I don't know about. For her to do this, the pain she has to endure is even greater than mine. Xu Wanjin stared at Su Fang. After suffering such a huge loss, you still trust that woman so much? I believe in myself, Su Fang said with certainty. Then, his eyes flashed with ruthlessness and determination. Goddess Luo must have been manipulated by someone. That's why she had no choice but to do this. As long as we enter the deepest part of the Tao Sea, everything will be revealed. I want to see what the reason is and who forced her to do this. No matter who it is, I won't let the person who controls her fate go. I'll help you force the poison out. Then, we'll go to the deepest part of the Tao Sea as soon as possible. Xu Wanjin used Xian Guang to envelop Su Fang. Shocking cold air gushed out from her palms and surged into Su Fang's body. If Gui Gui was here, it wouldn't be so troublesome. However, after entering the celestial worthy mountain, other than magic treasures, nothing with life could be brought in. Gui Gui and the dragon bird were all left in the sanctum of sages. Su Fang allowed the power of 9 Yin to permeate the heaven and earth Tao Palace. In fact, in his current state, he couldn't stop it even if he wanted to. When the power of 9 Yin entered Su Fang's yang meridian, it immediately caused the yang energy that was already out of control to start circulating in his body. As expected of the power of 9 yang that could fuse with any power of 9 yang, after each circulation of yang energy, the poison contained in the replenishing origin pill was reduced significantly. Xu Wanjin's yin and yang energy also entered Su Fang's divine aperture, causing the sea of energy in Su Fang to boil and roar. Su Fang gradually regained control of the power of 9 yang. The power of yang burned and turned into the 9 yang divine fire that swept through the heaven and earth Tao Palace. It quickly spread through all his meridians, flesh and blood, incinerating the strange poison in the pill and forcing a part of it out of his body. This lasted for about 10 days. Su Fang's body erupted with a supreme aura. He suddenly stood up from the ground and finally regained control of his divine body, primordial spirit and power. Senior sister, let's go. At this time, Su Fang had already recovered from the injuries he suffered when crossing the Tao River. However, his cultivation had not recovered to its peak state. However, he couldn't care less about that now. Su Fang, since you want to find out what difficulties Goddess Luo has, don't be in a hurry to catch up with her. Even if you catch up with her now, will she tell you anything? Moreover, in the depths of the Tao Sea, there's the yang soul of a supreme heavenly venerate. We don't know what happened and what kind of danger there is. Why don't we use the yin and yang Tao Sea to recover to its peak state first? It's best if we can improve. Only then will we have a greater chance. Goddess Luo persuaded Su Fang to calm down and focus on recovering. In the Tao Sea, the time array formation and the infinity wheel couldn't unleash their power. Su Fang and Xu Wanjin could only follow the prescribed order and frantically absorb the power of yin and yang in the Tao Sea to cultivate. The devouring caused the Tao Sea to shake violently, setting off stormy waves that swept towards the two of them. The scene was extremely spectacular. QL11 The Tao Sea wasn't a real sea. It was a condensation of the power of yin and yang, a substance that resembled seawater. The power of yin and yang in the Tao Sea surged like a tide and was devoured by the two's yin and yang divine power. Then, through the yin and yang dual cultivation, the two of them recovered their exhausted energy at an astonishing speed. Su Fang still felt that the speed wasn't fast enough. He released the world tree, which turned into a towering tree. Its branches extended out and pierced into the Tao Sea. Hiss! The power of yin and yang surged madly into the world tree through the branches. It surged and howled, causing the leaves, branches, and even the trunk of the world tree to tremble and expand madly, emitting thousands of rays of light. As a result, Su Fang's recovery speed doubled. Not only that, but the power of the world of yin and yang in the world tree surged into the yang meridian and constantly seeped into the world fragment from beyond the heavens. It also accelerated Su Fang's integration of the world fragment. The world fragment also surged with the world's force essence from beyond the heavens, further accelerating Su Fang's recovery and improvement speed. It also allowed Su Fang's power of yin and yang to constantly transform into high-level energy. This was also due to the fact that Su Fang's internal world was incomparably vast. If it were any other cultivator, absorbing so much pure and high-grade energy would cause their divine body to explode from the overwhelming amount of energy. In this state, Su Fang's energy was constantly transforming. This went on for about 300 years. Not only did Su Fang recover to his previous full state, but his cultivation base was also continuously charging toward the peak from the normal state of an upper-rank lord. Once he surpassed the peak, he would reach the peak of cultivation. Supreme Venerable God. It's about time. This is the heavenly Tao's origin. If we continue and absorb too much yin and yang power, we'll definitely exhaust too much of this universe's origin energy. Xu Wanjin really ended the yin and yang dual cultivation. Su Fang also put the world tree into the heaven and earth Tao palace. He sensed it. Su Fang was pleasantly surprised to discover that not only had his cultivation base risen to the peak of an upper-rank lord in a short period of time, but he was only one step away from becoming a supreme venerable god. Even the integration of the world fragment from beyond the heavens had progressed. He had almost integrated a third of it. When I completely integrate the world fragment and become a supreme venerable god, that'll be the time when I truly transcend this universe. Su Fang was extremely excited. The gloominess brought on by Goddess Luo's deception and betrayal was instantly swept away. Only by possessing great strength could one truly control one's own destiny. Only then could one completely control and change everything. Su Fang was naturally overjoyed that his strength had improved so much in such a short period of time, and he had even further integrated the world fragment. The two of them flew towards the depths of the Tao River. Even though Su Fang's ability to transcend nature was still restricted in the heavenly Tao's origin energy formed by the yin and yang energy, and he could only fly obediently, he was much faster than before. His speed had reached the speed of a divine Emperor Realm expert. Even though Goddess Luo possessed the sun-pierced golden rainbow, it was impossible for her to use it for a long period of time. Moreover, the Tao Ocean was so vast, so Su Fang was certain that he would be able to catch up to Goddess Luo in no time. Outside the exalted celestial mountain, since they could no longer see what Su Fang and the other two were doing, whether it was the emperors, Su Fang's family and friends in the Saint Temple, or the cultivators in the myriad of worlds, all of them were extremely worried for Su Fang. In an icy cold and deathly silent dark space, an enormous black coffin floated silently at the center of space. It was the Tao Defiance Alliance Master. During the War of the Two Realms, the Tao Defiance Alliance Master had not hesitated to self-destruct the coffin that he relied on to reside in. Even though he had refined a new one, it was far inferior to the previous one. The 5 Tao Defiance Emperors knelt before the coffin in midair. Chapter 2585. In the chaotic void beyond the heavens, Patriarch Luo stood with his hands behind his back, floating in the chaotic void. He looked into the depths of the heavens and earth, and the outline of the celestial worthy mountain could be vaguely seen in his eyes. However, it was merely an outline. He could not see the interior of the celestial worthy mountain. Patriarch Luo was like a cold stone. He stood there for a long time and mumbled to himself, "Master, I've done what I should. You're now deserted and at the end of your rope. I've fulfilled the oath I made to you back then by doing what I've done. Heavenly Lady, I've let you down. Don't blame me, because that's your destiny from the moment you were born. As for Su Feng, he thought he could control his own destiny after breaking free from the shackles of heaven and earth and sever the karma of fate. However, this is destiny. Who can change it? The moment you stepped into the celestial worthy mountain, no, the day you were born in my master's heavens and earth, your destiny was already set. Patriarch Luo waved his sleeves and flew slowly into the depths of the chaotic void. He soon disappeared. Inside the celestial worthy mountain, or to be precise, the world inside the divine aperture of a supreme heavenly venerate, Su Feng and Shu Wanjun were flying on the vast path ocean. They felt like two mortals lost in the ocean. They were surrounded by raging seawater and shackles brought about by the terrifying yin and yang energy. The only thing they could do was to keep moving deeper. Although they could absorb the pure yin and yang energy from the path ocean at any time, moving forward in the endless path ocean was a huge test for their Taoist heart and will. However, their Taoist hearts became firmer and their wills more tenacious through the boring and arduous training. At the same time, their cultivation base was constantly improving. Su Feng's cultivation base gradually stabilized at peak upper rank lord level. However, no matter how much yin and yang energy he absorbed, including the world origin essence in the world fragment, he could not break through the barrier of the sovereign level. The depth and breadth of his cultivation base continued to expand, but he could not elevate his cultivation base. Su Feng also knew that the energy of the heavens and earth could no longer help him elevate to the sovereign level unless he completely integrated the world fragment. Moreover, the yang vein was the key. Not only had his cultivation improved, but Su Feng's understanding of the heavenly divination and the heavenly secret life shrinking technique had also deepened. Especially the heavenly secret life shrinking technique, Su Feng had a faint feeling that he was about to make a breakthrough. However, he couldn't find anything in the life shrinking technique runes. Even now, many of the runes from the life shrinking technique were still mysterious to Su Feng. The Tao text was as vast as the sea. It seemed ordinary, but it was hard to understand. What is fate? Su Feng was thinking hard as he flew. If the Tianji life shrinking technique was a supreme technique related to fate, then what was fate? Birds are born to fly in the sky, while fish can only survive in the water. This is their fate. We are all humans, but some are born with glory and wealth, while some are born without enough to fill their stomach. This is also fate. In the face of fate, everyone's attitude is different. Some are resigned to fate, while others are unwilling to submit to fate. They resist unyieldingly and try to change their fate. Cultivators must constantly become stronger and break free from the fate of being controlled. They must break free from the layers of shackles and obtain true freedom and freedom. I am the same. I started as a mortal and constantly surpassed the peak. It is precisely because I want to constantly change my fate and control it. Although I have severed the karma of fate with this world, I still feel that there is a power controlling my fate. I am still far from being able to truly control my own fate. However, I will never submit to fate. I want to peel away the layers of fog of fate. From there, I will truly control my fate and change the future. Anyone who wants to control my fate, I will fight to the end. This time, I entered the celestial worthy mountain not to search for the truth of the world's metamorphosis, but to search for the truth of fate. At the end of the day, I am not fighting for the fate of all living beings in the world. I am fighting for my own fate. As Su Feng's train of thought became clearer and clearer, his understanding of the Tao inscriptions also became deeper. The Tao inscriptions that he thought he had already comprehended before now had a deeper understanding. The familiar Tao inscriptions became more profound. The unfamiliar Tao inscriptions gradually became less unfamiliar. There was a power from fate that was constantly brewing. As Su Feng continued to comprehend, more and more Tao inscriptions were integrated into his divine aperture. They were perfectly integrated with the divine aperture's boundary and even into the ethereal fate. Su Fang had a strong feeling that once those Tao inscriptions were stimulated, the heavenly secret life shrinking technique would leap to a new height and obtain new abilities. Moreover, Su Fang sensed that there was an invisible line connected to his ethereal fate. The other end of the line was unknown, and he did not know who was controlling it. Time flew by. Unknowingly, Su Fang and Shu Wan had been flying in the sea of the path for thousands of years. Gradually, the sea of the path beneath them changed. The deeper they went into the sea of the path, the less pure the power of yin and yang contained in the sea of the path. There was an additional aura of death and hostility. This meant that the sea of the path had been contaminated by the power of the evil god from its source. During the War of the Two Worlds, the eighth blood sun rose into the sky and was sealed by the mountain guardian. However, the sea of the path was still contaminated, and the seal could break at any time. The situation is becoming more and more serious. Su Fang's mood became heavier and heavier. Along the way, he could not find any trace of Goddess Luo. The heavenly secret life shrinking technique could not be used to sense the aura of fate. This made Su Fang begin to worry for Goddess Luo. Another 300 years passed. Finally, they reached the deepest part of the sea of the path. The mighty power of yin and yang swirled and mixed here, forming a huge whirlpool that constantly surged and spiraled. In the center of the whirlpool, there was a heaven-like boundary that separated the inside of the whirlpool from the sea of the path. Blood light constantly seeped out from the boundary, forming an area outside the boundary that was filled with evil blood light. The aura of death spread out in the surroundings, constantly contaminating the sea of the path. Even the power of yin and yang contained in the sea of the path had turned into a faint gray color. We've finally reached the deepest part of the sea of the path. Su Fang and Shu Wanjin's spirits were lifted, and their hearts were beating rapidly. At the same time, their expressions became extremely solemn. The source of the changes in the world might be inside the boundary. The fact that there was such a scene at the source of the heavenly Tao also meant that the situation was much more serious than they had imagined. What they were about to face next was a battle that concerned the survival of the myriad worlds and their own lives. How could they not be nervous? Su Fang, be careful. Shu Wanjin warned Su Fang, and then used the power of Nine Yin. Su Fang also used the power of Nine Yang. The power of extreme yin and extreme yang merged, forming the power of yin and yang, protecting the two of them in the center. They carefully entered the area shrouded in blood light. The evil aura swept over. It was the aura of the blood sun that they were very familiar with. Like a tsunami, it attacked the power of yin and yang that the two of them used together. The power of yin and yang remained motionless, protecting Su Fang and Shu Wanjin as they slowly flew in the world of blood light. Whoosh! From the blood light on the left, a figure suddenly appeared. It was not a real existence, but a humanoid monster that contained evil will and power. Its face was ferocious, like a corpse that had just crawled out of a coffin, exuding a strong aura of death and evil. However, its strength was not very high. It was equivalent to the level of a path integration cultivator. The two of them activated the power of yin and yang, instantly wrapping and strangling the shadow. Whoosh! 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 Countless monsters, with monstrous evil aura, flew toward the two of them. It felt like moths that saw fire, advancing dauntlessly without fear of death. Senior sister, you don't have to do anything. My Nine Yang divine fire can suppress these evil monsters. The real battle was still to come. It was not worth it to exhaust too much energy on these humanoid monsters. Su Fang's Nine Yang divine fire could refine all evil existences, so there was no need for Shu Wanjin to continue exhausting her power of Nine Yin. Boom! When Shu Wanjin withdrew her power of Nine Yin, the countless humanoid monsters swallowed the two of them like a tide. Su Fang's Nine Yang divine fire burst out, turning into a fire cloud that swept in all directions. At this time, the 9 Yang Divine Fire, along with Su Fang's Yang Meridian and Fire Divine Might, was no longer comparable to the past. It was almost at the level of the 9 Yang True Fire released by the Origin Sacred Mirror. The divine might of the flames was incomparably domineering, and could even refine Emperor powerhouses. Whoosh, whoosh. The humanoid monsters that swarmed over like moths to a flame were immediately turned into ashes when they touched the 9 Yang Divine Fire. Even the monsters in the distance that were affected by the divine might of the flames were instantly burned. The divine might of the flames covered 1,000 miles, incinerating all the evil aura within and completely clearing it. The barrier was clearly revealed from the dense aura of death. "Senior sister, let's go." Su Fang and Shu Wanjin went straight for the barrier. Just as he was about to reach the barrier, Su Fang sensed an incomparably powerful will gathering from the barrier with his great perfection ability. Could it be the will of a heavenly venerable? Su Fang was nervous and expectant. In an instant, a powerful will slowly formed, turning into an old face that appeared on the barrier. It spoke in a tired and gratified voice, "Su Fang, you're finally here. The woman beside you must be the owner of the Origin Sacred Mirror, the Origin Mirror, right? The Mountain Guardian." It was not the will of a heavenly venerable, but from the Mountain Guardian. During the war between the two worlds, the 8th blood sun rose into the sky. At the critical moment, the Mountain Guardian turned himself into a seal and sealed the 8th blood Sunday. He did not expect that the Mountain Guardian's will would appear here. Su Fang immediately understood. This barrier was a seal formed by the Mountain Guardian's divine body, origin spirit and world. The 8th blood sun was most likely inside this barrier. "Greetings, Mountain Guardian,"